radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Yeah. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses, today is Monday, March 14th. 73 days into the new year, 291 days left. We are live from a bunker in downtown Burbank, California. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your also humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? It is Monday. It's Monday, March 14th, which means it's Pi Day. Or actually, it's Rounded Up Pi Day. Last year, it was 3.1415. This year, it's 3.1416. Get it? I think you do. What's going on, man? Had a great weekend, back in the chair. Ready to do this. I hope everybody had a great weekend. We did. We had our paranormal dinner with Steve Murillo, Jeff Harmon, his wife Camille, Wolf McCarran, of course, Rita and myself, and Ryan Singer. Great paranormal conversation. Oh, you have no idea. It was all that. And the food was pretty good, too. But a great conversation, great people. Had a great weekend, relaxed. And here we are back in the chair on Monday. Tonight, yes, very special guest back with us, Jim Mars. And the two of us will be discussing the craziest conspiracy ever playing out in real time. The election and other events that are going on. Nothing like the view from Mars to kick off your week or mine. It's going to be great. Love myself some Mars. Tomorrow night, Dr. Carmen Bolter is going to be here. We're going to be talking about the current state of the Egyptian imaging that is going on over at King Tut's tomb, as well as the Great Pyramid and other stuff, breaking news out of Egypt. And also she has a new documentary that she is just finishing, and we will be dealing with all of that tomorrow night. And then on Wednesday, very special evening with the one and only Jonathan Young. Oh, yeah. And so there you go. What a great week we have got lined up. In a few minutes, we're going to bring in Ronnie McMullen from GetTheT.com, Life Change Tea. So we're going to bring Ronnie in a few minutes to discuss everything that is going on over at Life Change Tea. And let's see, what else have I got really quick to start off the show? Oh, our newest winner of a full weekend pass to Contact in the Desert is the one and only Jose Torres out of Mulberry, Florida. Jose, we knew you were going. Jose, you are our latest winner for Contact in the Desert. Congratulations, and there you go. Can't wait to see Jose out at Contact in the Desert. And Life Change Tea, we're going to talk to Ronnie about this in a few short minutes, but we'll have a new website up very shortly, too, as well. And we're going to talk to Ronnie about that. And, of course, all of his products over at GetTheT.com. And, man, whoa, where did that come from? It's called drinking coffee right before the show. So there, I'm going to drink some more. Have you seen our new website? Holy smokes. If you haven't, wherever you are right now listening to the show, and it's okay, wherever you are at, if you're at TalkStream Live, you're at KGRA, you're at TuneIn, wherever you are in the universe right now, you've got to go check out the new website, jimmychurchradio.com. Go and check it out. We launched it over the weekend. And, you know, as with anything, when you do something like this, a couple of hiccups, right? Minor ones. But, and we got those ironed out. And now it's up. It's beautiful. It's fast. It is insanely fast. And we got this really cool new look. I'm looking at it right now as I scroll down, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And I want to just thank Drew and Rita and everybody else that worked on this website over the weekend to make this thing look like it does. Full professional, I mean, which I expect nothing less. And because of the team that we have here, you know, we have standards, but I ride everybody a little bit hard. Okay, I do. It's just because I want the very best. And I just, you know, I want it to represent what we do here. And I look at this, and it just brings tears to my eyes. It is just perfection. And I think we've got all of the pages dialed. I think we've got all the bugs worked out. Go and check it out. We've done this for you. Okay, this is a radio show. That's it. You know, it's just a radio show. You know, and to have this represent this show, I'm just so proud and, again, so humbled. Absolutely amazing website. And I can't stop looking at it because this is what I've wanted all along. You know, this is what I wanted. We just pushed for it. Finally, we've got it dialed in. Please go check it out. We worked so hard on it. And just go and do it. JimmyChurchRadio.com. And let us know what you think, because it was a lot of work. It was months and months getting a website like this, having it's so large, and so, you know, it's just not some simple, you know, one-page thing. It's a big deal. And when you have the history that we have, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests, and all of that, it all needs to stay there, stay documented and archived and searchable, and it's all there. It's up and running, and it is beautiful. JimmyChurchRadio.com. Please go check it out. Let us know what you think. And now, also on the page, now over the next 3, 4, 5 months, we have 4 big events coming up, and that's the New Living Expo, Contact in the Desert, Roswell Festival, and UFOs Within Reach. So we have these 4 big festivals. Yeah, well, they are a festival. Conferences. And they're all there at JimmyChurchRadio.com. But also with some of these speakers that are at all of these events, we're going to be featuring on the show coming up too as well. And it's pretty amazing. And we have to weave all of this in, not only with the show and coast to coast, but other things that we are working on in the background that we're going to make some announcements on over the next month. And it is going to be a very, very, very busy summer. No days off, nothing. But it's be careful what you wish for, right? Well, we've got some really big announcements coming up. New Living Expo. Now, let me do this really quick. We have, I was going to pull out the calendar. Next week and the week after, these next 2 weeks are going to freak you out. This week is amazing. It doesn't get any better than what we've got this week with Mars and Carmen Bolter and Jonathan Young. But we've got Insanity coming up over these next 2 or 3 weeks with guests. It is going to blow your mind. Absolutely incredible. Let's get the show cracking. I've got to get Ronnie in here in 3 minutes. Today, good friend, Giorgio Tsoukalos is 38 years old. Billy Crystal is 68. Michael Caine is 83, and Quincy Jones is 83 years old. Wow, same birthday, same age. Our dead guy's birthday today is, yes, Albert Einstein, 1879 to 1955. Died at the age of 76, of course, just an iconic genius and legendary theoretical physicist who formulated the theory of relativity and the mass energy equivalence formula. But a couple of weird facts about Albert. During World War II, his name was on a Nazi list of assassination targets. And check this out, with a $5,000 bounty on his head. I guess, that wasn't just enough to motivate somebody. He failed to find a teaching job for 2 years while in Germany and worked as an assistant examiner for patent applications at the Federal Office for Intellectual Property in Bern. How interesting is that? They just didn't know what they had, did they? Let them go. That's right. Yeah. Twitter, @JChurchRadio. Facebook, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black. You know what to do. Over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All of the links and icons are there. Go follow, like, and subscribe. You can email throughout the show tonight. As you know, I try to read as many as I can. Just email Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Make it good, and it'll get its way into the bunker. I promise. But you got to make it good. The sandbox is #F2B. Come and hang out in the sandbox. We don't bite. Any questions or comments during the show for the guest or myself, and tonight that is Jim Mars, please use #F2BQ. I do want to remind everybody, tonight is Jim Mars. Tomorrow night is Carmen Bolter. Wednesday is Jonathan Young, Joseph Campbell Archives. Absolutely incredible. I think Jonathan was on the very first Ancient Aliens. Yeah. On this day in history, 1958, the Recording Industry Association of America awards the first gold record, to Perry Como for Catch a Falling Star. I did not know that. 1958. You would have thought that Elvis was in the running for the first gold record, but apparently not. Fader fact, gallium, that is Gallium, is a metal that melts in your hand. Yeah, not like M&Ms. It's the opposite. It does melt in your hand. All right, I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black our good friend from Life Change Tea, Ronnie McMullen. Ronnie, good evening, sir.
What do you say, Jimmy?
I'm always in a good mood when you're on with us, Ronnie. Always in a good mood when you're on with us. How are you?
You're the man. You're the man.
I had said a couple of weeks ago, Ronnie, I think I said it a couple of times, but what most people don't know or understand or comprehend is that I'm on the air on a microphone nearly every night of the week. If I'm not doing Fade to Black, I'm doing Coast to Coast. And if I have a night off from Coast or Fade to Black, then I'm at a conference somewhere speaking, right? Just week in, week out, every single night. And what it takes to get on the mic every single night and to be on your game, it's a lot of work. And you can't do it without supplements. It would be impossible. I cannot imagine the schedule that we do without having Life Change Tea stand by me. And am I wrong in putting so much on that?
No, I've been doing this for over 9 years, and let me tell you something. When it comes to colds and flus and your business where you have to be on the air every single day, where you have to be ready to speak at a moment's notice, you cannot afford to be sick. You can't have your voice all, it messes you up. In fact, I was listening to the Patriot Channel, which is kind of crazy, but I was listening to the Patriot Channel, and there's one of the guys on there, and he's a big-time host, and he is sick all the time. I'm just like, poor guy, you need some tea, dude. But, yeah, people don't realize that, having the tea is a backup. It's really something. And you know what? I think it's really interesting. We have this big political race going on. It's really fascinating to watch all the mudslinging and everything else. But nobody's talking about these political candidates. Nobody's saying anything about Monsanto, GMOs, or anything else and what these candidates think about that. And nobody's looking at that. So I'm thinking, oh, my God, if you don't look at that, then you can't attack the healthcare issue, and you can't attack – people need to realize health has got to be in the forefront, and I think sometimes they forget about that.
And they're not talking about big farm either.
No.
You know, that's a really, really good point. Now, see, Ronnie, our audience, they've just right now, your points, right, just went through the roof. You just went right up through the roof because that's who's running Life Change Tea. You are seriously conscious about our world and what's going on. There was, and I want to, since we're talking about that, and I do want to talk about Big Farm a little bit, is there's another thing that you are very careful about, and that is, even though you don't state it or talk about it, is organic compounds and where all of your stuff does come from. It doesn't come from Monsanto. It doesn't come. Nothing is GMO. No. Nothing is about that.
No,
and
we don't. We don't do the GMO gig. And a lot of people. I'm just going to state it. Everybody goes, "Oh, GMO," but a lot of people don't really realize what a GMO is. It means genetically modified organisms. And if you look at an organism and you see that you're being genetically modified and a new organism is entering into your body and changing your DNA and your RNA, is that really what you want to do?
Right.
And who's doing that? And this is something where people have got to wake up and, again, go into the presidential candidates and saying, okay, well, how do they feel? And when you talk about Cruz, everybody's, oh, yeah, Cruz. Well, Cruz says that you're a zealot if you want a GMO label. That says Monsanto's in his back pocket. So, you look at, and Hillary, at least Hillary is truthful. She's like, GMOs are the only way to go, and Monsanto supports me and marries me and loves me. And, she's truthful about it. I'm a slime bucket, and that's the way it is. So I'm just, not to bring out opinions, but I guess I did. Oh, well.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm listening to all of it. I think I stole half of what you just said. If you don't mind.
Well, they're trying. Here's the thing: they're trying to kill us, and this is where Big Pharma ties in, because they don't want you being naturally feeling better. And the products that I carry are all products that are going to make you feel better, organic, non-GMO. This is going to do a good thing. So they don't want that, and this is where the Big Pharma ties in, because again, I will challenge you. You go to the doctor for high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, doesn't matter what it is, and they hand you the medicine and the prescription, and they say, here you go, and you go fill that, and you say, by the way, doc, how long do I need to take this before I'm completely well? And they're gonna look at you like you have rats in your mouth, and they're gonna say, what are you talking about? You're gonna take this rest of your life, and I call that residual income.
That's the only way they can sustain themselves. If they cured anything or made you correct, then there's no reason to go back and spend more money.
Well, and they don't realize, or they do realize, but people don't realize that a lot of these pharmaceuticals, there's another sidekick to it. It might help you with your blood pressure, but it's going to jack you up somewhere else. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid. It's like this, oh, okay, it covers this up, but now you have a new scar over here. So this is why I like to do everything as natural as I can, and I'm not against doctors. I think doctors have their place, and it's a good thing. But the good doctors, they'll try to help you naturally. Not always, but they'll say, you need this over here, but, over here you could probably get some of this. And those are the good doctors. They're going away because Obama, his health care, which is really Hillary's health care, that was tried to be pushed on us clear back in the early 90s, and it didn't make it. So now it's made it because we're all lazy. So we need to jump up and say, okay, our next presidential candidate, I just had to get this out, Jimmy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The presidential candidate needs to be addressed how he feels about GMOs, and that's going to tell you who your candidate is. Is he for you, or does he want to kill you?
When it comes to, why is it that, I know that we talked about, they don't want to cure anything, but right. Why is it with Big Farm that they have such a noose around Washington that the obvious we can't fight? I'm talking about us citizens. It's the obvious things that we can't fight, and I don't understand how it continues. And one of the best examples of that, Ronnie, and Rita and I were watching TV last week, and I bring this up all the time. I really do. And the fact that Washington doesn't address this is chilling. In that, when you hear the disclaimers at the end of these prescription commercials, right? And so we're watching the commercial, and the guy literally says, or the woman says to the guy, it wasn't in the disclaimer. She literally says, "Well, if you have this may cause some kind of heart thing." She says, whatever, and could possibly kill you. So you need. And I said, wait a minute, did she just say that? And and I think it was for diabetes or whatever it was.
Oh yeah,
but
this could cause a blood clot. This could cause this. And another thing that's really interesting, we are the only country, America. We're the only country that can go to the doctor and ask for a prescription and get it. In other words, they're not allowed in any other country to advertise prescriptions or pharmaceutical drugs on the TV. But in America, we can. And that's why you see this. Ask your doctor. So you can literally go into the doctor, and they can prescribe, say, for a cold Tamiflu, and you can say, I really would like to have amoxicillin because I think an antibiotic would be better, and that doctor will write you the prescription. Now, something's jacked up when it's like that.
Yeah, because none of us are doctors. And when they go and they list these very basic things, are you not sleeping right? Well, that's the entire country, right? So immediately, you understand what I'm saying? Do you have headaches?
Oh, I do.
Do you have, does it hurt when you walk? Can you stand upright? Whatever. These very general things. And they rope in 90% of the population by saying these things in very general terms. And then, the disclaimer comes at the end, may cause suicidal thoughts.
Tendencies.
Yeah.
You may go postal.
Yeah, it may kill your triplets.
You're like, oh, my God, you might imagine UFOs coming down and abducting you.
Yes.
It's like it's crazy stuff. And I think it's really interesting, and I listen to a lot of radio probably because I was in it for so many years. But I listen to a lot of the radio, and everybody, you need to have gold and you need to have silver. And again, I think, the economy is kind of getting wishy-washy and we're in trouble here coming up. But nobody says anything about having products in the background. In other words, having a little bit of extra products that are health products, so in case things get bad, you're kind of good to go. Nobody talks about that at all. But you should have gold and silver. Well, guess what? If you're sick and they've contaminated the water and the air, which they're doing right now as we speak, then how do you spend your gold and your silver and your cash and whatever you've got toted away, your food supply? How do you do that when you're sick? And people, right. I really challenge the people to get well, to change their diet now, to do their exercise, and get some supplements going, and life would be good. That's why we call it life change, because it is a life change. And, tell me, Jimmy, do you want to go on air, or do you want to go on air feeling good?
That's right. And I say it every single night. I have battled off 2 colds in the last 3 months that were short-lived, and normally it would take me down for 2 weeks, and I don't want to do anything. It took me down for 2 hours, and I've been on the air every single night. I wanted to talk about moringa really quick because in one of your packages that you sent me, you sent a cut sheet for it. And although I take it every day, and I take it because of its basic things, but then I started to read about it, and I've got 4 minutes. We have 4 minutes. Let me go down this list because this is something that, honestly, this is something that big farm should promote, if you think about
Absolutely.
it. The benefits of moringa. Increases natural defenses in the body, provides nourishment to the eyes and brain, promotes metabolism with bioavailable ingredients, promotes the cell structure of the body, promotes the normal functioning of the liver and kidney, promotes energy, promotes proper digestion, acts as an antioxidant, supports the normal sugar levels of the body, promotes healthy circulatory system, takes care of the immune system of the body. It's naturally packed with 18 to 20 amino acids, which are highly absorbable and absolutely crucial to good health. Promotes healthy veins and arteries. And then I went on and I thought, okay, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. But the nutritional stuff in moringa, gram for gram, it has 7 times the vitamin C in oranges, 4 times the vitamin A in carrots, 4 times the calcium in milk with no lactose, 3 times the potassium of bananas, and 2 times the protein in yogurt if you take 2 capsules a day. Who shouldn't take moringa?
Well, it's interesting. I know we're almost out of time, but it's interesting. The most powerful thing that God has given us is trees, and people are cutting them down all the time, but moringa is actually from a tree in India and in Africa. And they pull the leaf and they basically pull this stuff. So that tree is there promoting our health. Talk about a gift. And to me, if we have a gift, shouldn't we take the gift?
Yeah. What did I'm trying to think of what's his name in Friday, the movie Friday. Chris Tucker. God put this on the earth for me and you, right?
That's right.
Of course, he's talking about weed, but
that's right.
But that's exactly
right. Real quick, there's a deal. If people want to try that moringa, and you need to have the tea. The tea is it really is a standard. It's our number one selling product. There's actually, if you get 2 months of super tea, you can get a moringa for $5. There
you go. And okay. I do the tea and moringa every single day. I do the colostrum too. And I do the 8th element. I go through my cycle of stuff every single day. But moringa, colostrum, tea, it's amazing what it has done for me. When does the new website go live?
We got about another week, and we've done some changes, and I'm pretty excited about the new website. It's going to be mobile friendly.
Right on.
We've kind of been a little Flintstone-ish, but we're, not to knock the Flintstones, but we're going mobile friendly, so it's going to be a beautiful thing. And of course, there's a Jimmy discount for those of you. The tea and more is $75. So you buy 2 months of super tea, and you get the moringa for $5. And if you mention Jimmy Church, and you better, you get free shipping.
That's what I'm talking about.
You can't beat it.
Ronnie, I'm going to tell the audience right now. Ronnie goes, Jimmy, you've got a lot of listeners in the UK, man, because they keep calling up. We listen to Jimmy Church. I can't do an English accent. I don't want to embarrass myself. But
yeah, I'm good at Australia, but the English thing, that they probably laugh their butts off listening to me. But I will say this. I want to give a hint to anybody that's in another country listening. Make sure the postage is through the roof, and we can't really help you there. We'll give you the $4 off as we do in the United States. But order more product. That way because the shipping is going to be one charge. So no matter what it is, it's one-time charge. So it's not like, X amount of dollars on every item. So buy more and save more money. That's the way I look at anybody that's out of country.
Ronnie McMullen, getthetea.com. Ronnie, thank you for coming on. And I wanted to say about that, see, the UK, right, they get tea over there. They understand.
They get it.
Right,
yes,
they get tea. It's just so funny. So, thank you to everybody out there that have helped support the show and support yourself through getthetea.com. Ronnie McMullen, go use the promo code Jimmy. He's got a new special up there on the website for moringa and the super tea. Go do it. Thank you, Ronnie, for all that you do.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks very much for having me on. And tell your listeners, free shipping with Jimmy Church. So you need to save them every dollar you can. It's a tough world out there. Thanks, Jimmy. Love you, man.
Yeah, love you back, Ronnie. Ronnie McMullen, getthetea.com. Thank you, Ronnie. All right, let's go. Let's take a quick break. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on KGRA, The Planet, the Game Changer Network. Right after this short break, Jim Mars and The View from Mars live. I'll be right back with Jim Mars. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Let's do this. I'm fired up. Always great when we have Jim Mars on with us. He is a native of Fort Worth, Texas. He earned his Bachelor's of Arts degree in journalism from the University of North Texas in 1966 and attended graduate school at Texas Tech in Lubbock for 2 more years. He has worked for several Texas newspapers, including the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, where, beginning in 1968, he served as a police reporter and general assignments reporter covering stories locally in Europe and the Middle East. After a leave of absence to serve in the 4th Army Intelligence Unit during the Vietnam War, he became a military and aerospace writer for the newspaper and an investigative reporter. Since 1980, Mr. Mars has been a freelance writer, author, public relations consultant, and all-around troublemaker. Mr. Mars has appeared on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, C-SPAN, The Discovery, Learning, and History channels, This Morning America, Geraldo Montel, Today, Tech TV, and Larry King. He's the author of many, many books, all of which I have read and have here in the studio, including Alien Agenda, Rule by Secrecy, The War on Freedom, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, Above Top Secret. His current release is, of course, Population Control. His website is jimmars.com. That's with 2 R's. And I'd like to welcome back to the show fellow Fadernaut, Mr. Jim Mars. Jim, how are you?
Howdy, Jimmy. It's always great to be with you. I might point out that all those big-time media outlets that you read off, yes, I was on there. Usually once. And And it's interesting because on so many of them, the host or the director or one of the producers would say, "Wow, you did great. Wow, the switchboard lit up. We had all these calls coming in. Said, we're going to have you back." And I went, "Okay." And then I never heard from them. I suspect, Jimmy, and I think you'll agree with me, that I was a little too truthful for mainstream media.
You were right. Yeah, what does that tell you? That's pretty funny. And
it is funny. And also, to add to that, just the other night, we were at dinner with some people, and my own wife popped off, and I don't recall hearing this from her before, but she told these other people, she said, years ago, Jim was telling me all this stuff, and I thought he was a little bit, off the beam. She said, but it all turned out to be true.
You know what's funny is, you've been on with this now, I don't know how many times over the last 3 years, but probably as much as any other guest. And just the opposite of, ABC or CNN, right? We bring back the real deal, and that's what we do. But everything that you have spoken about forget about the last 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. Let's just talk about recent memory and recent history. This stuff is starting to play out right in front of us. And because of it, Jim, you have forced me into living in a parallel universe, man. I think it's like Bizarro World in Superman.
I know.
I mean,
I do know. I can't tell you how many times letters I've gotten and emails and spoken with people who say, "You know what? After I read all your stuff, I can't even look at the news in the same way anymore."
I can't do it.
And it's true, Jimmy, isn't it? Once you understand what's being played out here, then it all begins to make sense. Otherwise, you sit there and you listen to CNN or Fox and you go, "What the heck is going on?" They tell us, for example, we have to be so concerned about terrorists slipping into our country and possibly bringing in weapons of mass destruction. And so it's a terrorist alert orange today. Be on your alert. Give up your liberties. We have to sneak into your computer. We have to spy on you to save you from these terrorists. But wait a minute. They haven't done anything to secure the border. Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, does it? But it does when you understand the New World Order and their plans of eliminating all national borders, eliminating areas of land, that the government will then be in charge of, and everyone will be crammed into one of the large cities, and you'll have your little microchip put in, and you're going to have to go down, stand in line to get your food and your water and your vaccines and all of this stuff. And it's, we're in a race here to see if we're going to wake up and return to freedom of the individual, or are we going to turn into an Orwellian 1984 Big Brother society?
Would you, help me out on this. Scare the crap out of me, Jim. If you don't elect to, and I know you won't, right? You're not going to get chipped. You're not going to do it.
Not knowingly.
Yeah,
but
right.
You realize, though, that you could go and they could offer you a free vaccination, and if you take it, they do have chips that they can inject you with along with a vaccine. So you may not know you're getting it.
But if I don't get chipped, what do they do with me? What do they do with Jim Mars?
They probably initially won't do anything with you. You'll be begging them to chip you because you won't be able to open a bank account. You won't be able to go get a job. You won't be able to enter a school. You won't be able to go to the doctor. You won't be able to do anything unless you can show proof of your citizenship.
Kind of like when you chip your dogs now, right, or your cats. Right. You can't even go and get your cat worked on or your dog worked on if they don't have chips.
Well, and just how big a step is it to where they require your kids to get the chip?
Oh, how do you know if they're not chipped already? Right.
Well, like I said, they very well be. Now, California and other states are now passing laws mandating that not only children all get their vaccinations, but adults too, okay? It's quickly becoming no longer a choice. And yet I would point out that in the 80s, during the Reagan administration, very pro-business, they passed the Vaccine Injury Act, which absolves the pharmaceutical corporations from any liability if their vaccines harm you. And they do. They do. They try to tell you they're problem-free, but the fact is the Injury Compensation Fund that was created along with that act in Congress has now paid out almost $4 billion to families whose children have been damaged by vaccines.
How is
so
it
don't
possible?
let them tell you that they're safe and there's no problem.
How is it possible?
Obviously, if there's any danger whatsoever, at the very least, it should be voluntary. If you want to vaccinate yourself or vaccinate your kids, fine. But don't say you have to. Hey, Jimmy, it's this simple. Here's my line. Okay, remember this always.
Go for it.
Anything that is not voluntary is tyranny.
Yes. Oh, I've got tears coming out of my eyes. I seriously do. But Jim, how is there
tears
any
running down my leg?
Is there any? Okay, let's put our Sirius hat on. I've got my Sirius Mars fedora on. Okay, I just put it on. Is there with this exemption that Big Farm has when it comes to vaccination? Is there anything else that is getting passed right now that allow that kind of clearance? And with other companies, is there a precedence for this? You know, I mean, that no really. Liability whatsoever.
Really. If you and I started a business and we're going to produce widgets, and our widgets tended to fall apart, and nobody liked them, and there's a lot of complaints.
Right.
And pretty soon nobody would buy them. Pretty soon we just go broke.
Right.
Okay. That is the nature of free enterprise and the capitalistic system. But see, now, especially when it comes to pharmaceuticals, all of a sudden they don't count. They're too big to fail.
What's wrong? See, that's the thing. What's wrong with that? That, it's called culling the herd, isn't it?
Well, it's called tyranny.
Well,
if you can't opt out of something, and like in California, at least there for a time, you could plead a religious exemption. You could say, "I'm sorry, but my religion says, just does not allow me to put foreign stuff in my body, and I don't want it." But now they've closed that little loophole.
When it comes to when all of those banks during the bailout back in 2008. I literally thought to myself, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad that we're going to have to take this on the chin if these banks fail. But and so maybe we do need this bailout. Maybe we need this bailout in Detroit. Now, I understand the catch-22 there. Without the auto industry buying the ads on TV, then it doesn't support this, and it goes in a bad circle, right? There's a catch-22 there. And
it's a snowball effect.
It is, and I get that. But shouldn't we just have let the banks fail?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? In 2008, if we just let those big banks that overextended themselves, made all those bad derivative loans, made all those bad mortgage loans, if we just let them fail, you know what? We'd all still be here today. Okay?
Yeah.
Somebody else would have stepped in.
Yep.
Some of the state banks and local banks would have stepped in, picked up your mortgage, picked up your loan, at probably better interest rates.
Right.
A whole lot less problem. Probably local people that you could actually talk to instead of getting the telephone merry-go-round.
Right.
When you try to call up that national line. Everything would have probably been a whole lot better. And let me tell you something. I don't know if you've even thought about this, but with that act they passed in Congress, right after that, because people were so upset about those bailouts, why should the taxpayers be bailing out those big banks that made bad business decisions? Well, with the Dodd-Frank Act, now it's true, it sounded good when they passed it because they said this will prohibit bank bailouts. No more public tax money going to bank bailouts. Well, boy, that sounded great. But what nobody realized is, and this has already been beginning to happen in some of the European countries, now if the banks are about to fail again, and they are, the only way they can pick up the slack is by going after their own unsecured loans. Now, what is that? That is your checking account and your savings account. People don't understand it, but when you hand your money over to that bank, it is no longer your money. It is their money.
That's right.
And you essentially have become a stockholder in the bank because they don't keep your money safe in a vault somewhere. They loan it to other people and other institutions at interest and make money off of your money. Okay? Well, if all of a sudden they're having trouble, they're going to go for the amount of money they have that's unsecured, and that's your checking account and your savings account. And so one day you might look up and they say, gee, I'm sorry, our bank got in trouble, and we had to pay off all these debts, and you as a stockholder of the bank, well, here we'll give you some stock back, but there's no money. You say, well, wait, I want my money back. No, you're not going to get it.
No, we paid off our debt, our mistakes with your money.
Exactly.
Yeah, and wasn't it Iceland and another country over in Europe? They threw their bankers in jail. Didn't Iceland throw like 80 of their bankers in jail?
Yeah, exactly, which is what we should have done. But, we've got these puppets in Washington that don't give a fig about the interest of the public. The only time they even mouth good words is when it's election time, and then they get up there and all they can think about is lining their pocket and getting reelected.
Did you say puppets or puppies?
Puppets.
Same thing.
As in Pinocchio.
Same thing.
The only difference actually is when Pinocchio told a lie, his nose grew.
Now,
their noses stay pretty much the same.
And now I find ourselves, we have so much to talk about tonight. So let's just take a deep breath here and think about when I talk about, and you and I spent so much time on the phone this week talking about this, but we find ourselves at a serious, and I brought this up 2 months ago on the show. Now, I'm not saying I'm some guy with a crystal ball, but I wanted everybody to just brace themselves for the possibility of things going pretty damn crazy. And I don't know if it's good crazy or bad crazy, but it's certainly going to be off the charts crazy by the end of 2016. And
I really believe that's true. In fact, if you'll stop and think about it, for several years now, they've been talking about bank failures. They've been talking about paper money going away. They've been talking about the ever-increasing police state. They've been talking about more and more surveillance, more and more drones in the air, more and more cameras on the streets, the money, inflation being worth less, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Well, if any of that is going to happen, then the odds are it would probably happen right before the November elections of this year. Can you imagine if there's another false flag terrorist attack, or even a real terrorist attack, or bank failures, or a collapse of the economy that happens, say, in late September or sometime in October? You can see where by the time the elections get here, 1st of November, people would be in such shock and such traumatized that, God knows what they could pull. There's been rumors for some time now that Obama will pull some little trick out of his hat and, postpone the elections, maybe even declare martial law. And don't think that that's an impossibility, because as we saw with Jade Helm this past summer, they're set up. They've pre-positioned equipment. They got their troops ready and trained. They run their exercises. They know they can pull the plug at any given time. So that is not without the realm of possibility. But if it is going to happen, then I would think it would probably happen right before the election, so that, they can say, well, in all this extenuating circumstances, in this time of trial, we can't be bothered with elections, and they just move right on.
Now, that's the bad side of the coin.
That's the bad side of the coin, but there's also kind of a good side to that same coin.
Right.
If they pull that, I think that would be the straw that broke the camel's back. I know for certain here in Texas, there's plenty of people armed and ready and fed up and angry, and that might be just the fuse to be lit that would really start turning some things around. So I think they're going to have to be very careful and think very hard before they do that stuff. But then on the other hand, we've got stuff like the murder of Lavoy Finnegan. That was nothing but an ambush and an assassination of an honest American gentleman with 11 kids, went to church, paid his taxes. All he did was try to stand up for his constitutional rights, and they murdered him. And I don't want to hear this stuff about, oh, well, he was reaching for a gun. No, he wasn't. He was slapping his side where he'd already been shot. I've got a copy of the coroner's report and autopsy, and they said he'd been shot twice on the left side and up through the upper left chest. He was grabbing at his wounds, okay? And then they just killed him, and then they just left him on the ground there without even trying to check on him or see if it could help, and then continued shooting into this pickup truck that had women and young girls in there who had done nothing. And then if you go back and really check, you find that early on when they stopped him at the first checkpoint, he stuck his empty hands out the window and says, I'm going to go talk to the sheriff. You do what you want to. Shoot me if you're going to, but I'm going to head and go talk to the sheriff. So he told them what was going on. He told them where he was going. Why didn't they just follow him to where the sheriff was? They could have arrested him right there, probably with no problem. But no, the FBI chose to murder him so that they can send a message to all Americans that don't get in the way of the government or we'll just kill you.
Not to throw gasoline on this fire, Jim, and you and I respect...
No, we need to, because nobody's paying attention to this. It got totally covered up in the media. Media calls it a shootout with militants, okay? Right. Nobody fired a shot in that whole situation except the government, okay? And the thing, too, is according to his family, he did not have that 9mm with him the FBI claimed he did. Not only that, but let's stop and think just for a minute, Jimmy. Let's go back and look at the veracity of the FBI. Have they always told us the truth about everything?
Never.
If they have, well, then we certainly would give them the benefit of the doubt since they're the big government agency. But the truth is, and historically, they've lied to us about everything from the Kennedy and Robert Kennedy assassination through Ruby Ridge, through Waco, all the way down the line. And I'm sorry, but I don't trust them any more than I could throw J. Edgar Hoover in his tutu.
Did they? Right. Did they ever produce the 9mm that they allegedly found on him? Yeah. Yeah,
not that I've seen. And besides that, the pictures I have seen of Lavoy Finnegan, he was wearing some kind of pistol, but it was on his right hip. You don't grab your left side if your pistol's on your right hip.
Yeah,
the whole thing. Now, it's just this was a murder, and nothing's going to be done about it. Okay, I can tell you right now, they'll investigate. They'll wait till it cools down, and they'll wait till nobody's looking, and they'll go, well, it was all justified. A little bit weird, but it was justified. Now, let's compare the shooting of Finnegan, which kind of hit briefly on one news cycle, militant shot and shootout, and everybody goes ho-hum, as compared to the case of Michael Brown. Okay, here's an 18-year-old, 200-pound thug that just got through robbing a store and assaulting the store clerk, and then when he assaults a police officer is forced to shoot him, and boy, we heard about that for weeks on end. Even the President of the United States says, well, it looks like he could have been my son, because the media only shows you a picture of him when he's 12 years old, okay? And I'm not trying to demean that one. That was tragic, too. And, of course, that started the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, wait a minute. How about we all get together and say all lives matter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, see, all we do is we get hit over the head with Michael Brown, this thug, and yet when Lavoy Finnegan, who had not really committed any crime to speak of other than standing up for his constitutional rights, and he's murdered in cold blood by the government, nobody says anything about that.
How close are we? We're going to hit a break here in 5 minutes. How close are we actually to seeing the Republican Party collapse? And is this something that, the cabal or the Rothschilds, the, Federal Reserve or whoever is behind, is, we talk about the puppet masters. Is this something that they want to see happen? Because it looks like this could be like the craziest thing ever in the last 240 years of the United States.
Well, Jimmy, you pretty well answered your own question. Okay? Let's think about it. The New World Order folks, these globalists, as they call themselves, who don't really care much about American because most of them are European royalty or European billionaires who control the banks, control the international bankers. Okay? The biggest stumbling block they have to their New World Order is the United States of America. And so they are doing everything they can to balkanize this country and get us fighting with each other so we can't get our act together and turn on this New World Order, which is composed of NAFTA and the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Prosperity Partnership that Bush and Mexico signed, and all these little trade agreements where they're trying to bind all the nations together without borders. This is why all those immigrants are flooding Europe. This is why they're flooding America. Secretly, we now know that UPS very quietly is flying in whole plane loads of these Middle Eastern refugees, largely without even being vetted by anybody. We don't know who they are or what their motives are or what they want, but we see what's happening in Europe, and it's going to be happening here pretty quick if we don't start doing something. And Donald Trump, who is just, to me, entirely too close to the Clintons and to Netanyahu and Israel to be a true independent, but at least he is raising good issues, you know, so maybe there's a chance with him, although I would kind of doubt it. But still, you know, they're doing everything they can to destroy the unity and the sovereignty of the United States of America. And if that means tearing down the Republican Party, great, because it's the solid, real conservatives within the Republican Party that are causing them the biggest trouble. They pretty well got the Democrats, lined up behind them because they're all for every social program there is.
What would happen if the Republican Party had to start over?
Well, you know, it's come full circle. You understand, hey, when I was in high school here in Texas, there were no Republicans. No Republicans. Picture that. And in fact, there were no Republicans throughout the whole South. It was called the Solid South. And because they were solid Democrats and had been Democrats all the way back to the war between the states. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And it was the radical Republicans that engineered that war from Washington. And so look how everything's gotten turned around. At one time, it was the Democrats who supported the Southern Confederacy, supported slavery, supported the Jim Crow laws, okay, right on up until the 60s. And now they're the ones who want to give everything to everybody, and it's the Republicans who are trying to say we need to curtail the power of the government and we need to be more conservative. So everything is just flip-flopped, and I think there's a reason for that, because you get people confused, and then they don't know who to vote for, and what's going to happen is we're going to fall back to what was warned about at the time of the American Revolution. A French philosopher named de Tocqueville came to this country, toured around, went back, wrote a book, and in there he said, you know, democracy sounds great. He said, but it'll never last, because as soon as the public can figure out that they can vote themselves money from the public treasury, they're just going to vote for whoever promises them the most. And I ask you, Jimmy, isn't that pretty much where we are today?
That's exactly where we are today. And let's take a quick break right there, Jim. This is Fade to Black. Oh, I got a little feedback going on here. I'll fix that right now. This is Fade to Black. Our guest is Jim Mars, bespoke radio for the masses. More with Jim and The View from Mars right after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay right there.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
Hey folks, Life Change Tea here, reminding you that colds and flus suck. Feeling lousy sucks, and allergies really can be annoying. What if you could change that? What if you could drink something that changed the sick and tired scenario? Well, you can change how you feel with a little help from Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a drink you make, you control, and you drink. There are 8 organic herbs that blend together and give you what you need to fight the flus and colds of this world. Less sickness is more relief. Life Change Tea can help with high blood pressure, constipation, high cholesterol, and much, much more just by drinking the tea. Read the numerous testimonies at getthetea.com. If you're tired of feeling lousy, order right now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. If you've heard this commercial more than once and someone's trying to tell you something, it's time to get well. GetTheTea.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, jimmychurchradio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me right now on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. Twitter is on fire. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. If I see one more picture of some weed, because, hey, Jim, check this out. Tonight, welcome. Tonight is our 420th broadcast. Right, so everybody is now, it's 420, man. So Jim Mars, yeah, Jim, you're on the weed show tonight. So, with everything that is going on right now, I want to visit Podesta and Hillary and Obama and the other stuff that is going on right now in the alien side.
I don't deal with criminals.
I'm not smoking weed. I'm not smoking weed.
Okay. Well, then you got to be all right.
Yeah.
No, don't get me going here. Just today, a friend of mine with all the experience, education for nursing you could have, applied for a local hospital up here that's desperately in need of help, and they were all excited, but she couldn't pass the P test, and so they said, we can't hire you.
It was weed?
Give me a break. The P test.
Yeah.
Apparently it showed, it registered for pot. Come on. Holy crap. This reminds me of years back. I had a friend that was a airline hostess, or stewardess, whatever they call them now, whatever the politically correct term is. And she was really good. She loved her job, and she was really good, but she was upset because the airline that she worked for was requiring random drug tests. And the thing that really upset her was because of the power of the pilots union, they weren't required to have surprise, urine test. They were given 3 and 4 weeks notice before they had a test. And as she argued, and I totally agree, I don't care so much about what the hostess or stewardess may be smoking. I do care about the pilot. but that's where we are, see? They're going to test the stewardess, but not the pilot.
I'll go on the record.
We have an insane country full of insane people.
I'll go on the record and say this. When I lived down in Panama, right, in the Canal Zone, I'm 14, 15, 16 years old living down there. And I was an eyewitness to the entire army that was down there was smoking weed. Everybody was smoking. Out in public, everywhere. There was weed everywhere. It's so funny.
All I can say is, at this late date, anyone who is a grown person and tries to tell you that they've never tried marijuana, they are either have lived the most sheltered existence of anyone, or they're lying.
I read the other day, I was going to do this as a Fader Fact at the beginning of the show. I do a Fader Fact on every show. And I read this the other day, and it blew my mind. You would have to smoke, and this was a fact. I vetted the fact. One person would have to smoke the equivalent of 7,000 pounds of weed to overdose.
Well,
7,000 pounds.
To federal death certificates or statistics, and you'll find that there's been people that have died from overdosing on peanut butter. There's people who've died from. I remember a story about a woman in Florida who died from drinking too much water.
Right.
She drowned herself, but nobody has ever died from an overdose of marijuana. But let me tell you, the kind of crap that we've been fed all these years, and this goes back into the 70s when I was working for the newspaper, and we got a story that says a new study of the American prison system show that 90-some% of the inmates had smoked dope, with leaving the conclusion that if you smoke dope, then, you're on the path to prison. And even at that time, number one, right off, I thought, well, now, wait a minute. I bet if they took that same survey and asked them, have you drank milk, you'll find that 99.9 of them drank milk before becoming criminals, So that didn't make any sense. And then I keep reading the story, and another story that said that they had found that lab rats, when exposed to marijuana, acted funny. Okay, well, number one, it's like, yeah, duh. But then number two, when I read it, they would put electrodes, they would cut open the rat's brain or head and attach electrodes to his brain and then force him the equivalent of 20 marijuana cigarettes, which is probably enough to incapacitate a human, and they did this to a poor little rat, and then they'd register abnormal readings in his brain, and that was the whole foundation of their study that says marijuana will harm your brain. I think the idea of cutting off the top of your head and putting electrodes in your brain would probably start that off pretty well, don't you think, Jimmy?
I knew milk was a pathway drug.
Exactly.
I knew it. I knew it all along.
That's right.
How do we get off on that conversation?
I don't know. It's because of the insanity that's going on in this country right now. I mean, you have little kids, little elementary school kids kicked out of school because they're running around pointing their finger, going bang, bang, playing like they have a gun, as if what? They don't ever watch TV?
I'm just,
They don't go to movies?
I'm uncomfortable talking about pot with Jim Mars. I'm uncomfortable. And you know what I would feel really comfortable about.
I haven't ever smoked dope.
No. Well, Contact in the Desert's coming up. Is this, Jim? I would want if Kasich or Hillary or anybody running right now came up to the microphone and said, "Yeah, I've smoked weed. So what?" I would, I would be like, right on.
Actually, Bill Clinton said that, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't inhale.
No,
see?
no,
Well,
he didn't.
okay, well, see, that was enough to cause me not to vote for him. If the idiot doesn't even know how to smoke a doobie, then who wants him as president?
Bill was a pothead. You can look at,
So is Obama.
Yeah, Obama looks like a pothead, too. Yeah.
Well, it not looks like it. There are photographs of him smoking dope.
I believe it. I've seen him, yeah.
Childhood friends said, yeah, sure. And the thing is like, here's what kills me. With them, Bill Clinton, Obama, well, that was just a youthful, fling, no big deal. And I tend to agree with that. But wait a minute. What about all those thousands of people who are now rotting in prison for doing the exact same thing?
That's right.
Why don't we say, well, that was just a youthful fling and let them out?
Right. Are the pot laws in Texas still as harsh as they used to be, or they started to relax?
They're relaxing a little bit, but not a whole lot. It kind of depends on who catches you and when and where and what they had for breakfast. You know?
Right.
My daughter was a Dallas cop for a while, and I know that her methodology. She was right there patrolling the downtown area, so she came in a lot of people that were idiot enough to smoke in front of a cop, and her deal was just say, hey. And take it away from them, field strip it, and say, don't do that, okay? She was pretty cool about it. And I know a lot of police officers, even going back into the time that I was serving as a police reporter, It just depends on who you get and what they had for breakfast. Unfortunately, the laws are mostly still there, so if they want to hit you over the head with them, they can. But if they're a decent person and you're not harming anybody, you're not doing anything bad, then a lot of times they'll just kind of wink and let you go.
Well,
that's not right either.
Well, back in the 70s,
we're a country of laws or we're not.
Back in
the law, then they should, and if the laws are such to where it's so arbitrary that they can either say, well, go on your way, or take you to jail, then those laws need to be changed.
Well, back in the 70s, there was that running joke that used to go around the country, which was, get arrested for pot anywhere but Texas.
That's true. That's true. Hey, just my next to last book, the $1 trillion conspiracy, I think I wrote about a kid here in Texas. This was just a year or two ago. They caught him with some brownies, okay?
Right.
And unfortunately, under the law, they actually were charging him as a felony because they were going by the weight of the brownies, okay?
Oh.
Which just had traces of marijuana in it, of course. Now, cooler heads prevail. That hit the internet. There's a lot of people raising Cain about that, and thank God some level-headed prosecutor said, well, so they backed up and they somehow reduced his charges to simple possession, and I think he got a big fine or whatever he went on, but I don't think he served prison time. So, yes, unfortunately, the laws are still in the books. Some people in Texas are still way backwards, but then there's a lot of people now that are moving forward. There is some legislation in the Texas legislature for, decriminalizing pot, in fact, legalizing medical marijuana and maybe even recreation marijuana.
Yeah, that would change the situation on the borders, too, as well. But you know what?
Yeah, a whole lot.
But who imports?
I know it's coming because I know of some people who know land developers and people with money who are already buying up property for the purpose of growing weed,
Well, I don't even know. Do we even import Mexican weed anymore? It's just not good enough, is it?
I don't much think so. I can't imagine they're making much money off of that. Not as much homegrown growing as there is, and the fact that, surely you can drive to California or Colorado or Oregon or one of these states that, has legalized marijuana. But of course, it's transition period. It's weird. I just got through writing about a guy who was driving through, I think it was Wyoming, and he got stopped and hassled and his car searched because he had Colorado license plates.
Okay, Jim, the audience wants you to say doobie. Say doobie.
I said doobie.
Okay.
Doobie. Wasn't that Frank Sinatra's theme song?
Yeah. Well, I mean, who would want, I can't imagine us importing the Mexican skank weed when we've got all that, all that crazy scientific stuff that they grow up here now.
Now, Colorado maroon or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what they got, but it's good stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, the mad scientist up here. Now, I want to change gears somewhat. There is reports now that any day, and this is confusing to me, that any day they're expecting Iran to launch a 3-stage rocket ballistic missile with a satellite on the top of it. And it's imminent. The launch is imminent, and it's going to happen. How could Iran? There's some crazy conspiracy going on here right now. They go and they sign this deal. They get $150 billion. They get to start selling their oil. They're welcomed back into the world financial community. And we knew that it was a bad agreement, but we did it anyway. We signed it, released some of the money. They're now selling their oil, and now they don't care about that treaty and that agreement. And they're going to is that snubbing their nose? Bearing their rear end to the rest of the world, saying we don't care about what you think about us and our nuclear capabilities.
Wait just a minute, Jimmy. Let me get this straight. So they're launching a 3-stage rocket, and they're going to put a satellite in orbit. Is that the deal?
Yep.
Okay. So what? So did RCA. So did China. So did France. So did Israel. So what? So they want a satellite too. Big deal. Now, if they launch a nuclear weapon, that's a different proposition. But the number one, I don't think they'd do that because they'd be insane, totally insane to do that, because they might be able to put together one, maybe even 2 missiles with a nuclear warhead. But, hey, how many have we got? 2,000? Come on. Israel's got 400 or 500. They're not going to do that.
Well, I would look at it like this. If you were playing right, if you're sitting at the table, right, and playing cards, you're playing pinochle within the rules. If they really need a satellite up there, give it to France, give it to Russia, give it to the United States, and we'll launch it up there for you if you need it up there that bad. What do you need a 3-stage ballistic missile for?
Well, hey, if you get a brand new Mercedes and you're driving it around, and I'm pretty envious, and am I going to say, hey, I want a Mercedes too, but you won't let me buy one, so can I drive yours around? Come on.
Well, I mean, am I wrong in looking at it that way?
I think you're right. I think it was a bad deal. We shouldn't be giving him all his money. But, this is an Obama deal. There's no question in my mind. He's going to go down in history. 50 years we'll look back. The historians will. Nobody else will. Nobody else pays any attention to anything happened more than a day ago. But they'll look back, and they're going to say, that's the worst president the U.S. ever had. How in the world did they ever elect this guy? And I'll tell you how they elected this guy. It's just sheer racism. Okay? What? Wait a minute. That's not politically correct. Yeah, but it's true. Here's the thing. If you vote against some candidate on the basis of his race, then that's racism. Everybody goes for that. But wait a minute. If you vote for somebody just on the basis of his race, that's also racism. And when you go back and try to look at Obama's background, which he doesn't have one, barely eked through school, never did anything of any consequence, barely eked through Congress, never introduced any legislation, never worked for a business, never had any foreign policy experience. I mean, the guy had nothing except he was a good-looking black guy.
Sounds like you're talking about Bernie Sanders.
Well, him too.
Did I just say that? Oh. I didn't mean that. That slipped out.
Well, yeah, but at least Bernie Sanders has been in the forefront of trying to push his socialist agenda, and although I disagree with him and I don't support that agenda, I nevertheless will give the guy all due respect for sticking to his guns, saying what he's all about, and pushing for it. He's a stand-up guy.
Well, going back, speaking about Obama, and that's where I love a good conspiracy, right? And you remember when Obama was supposed to get on the press plane. They're in the middle of the campaign trail. He disappears. His campaign manager steps on the plane and goes, okay, Obama's not going to be with us. He's going to a secret meeting, right? He's gone. They divert the plane. The plane goes to Florida or wherever it goes, and he goes to meet with the Bilderbergs, right?
Right.
And he comes out, and instead of Hillary being his running mate, he picks Biden, and Hillary's thrown out off of the bus, tumbling down the hill. She's out, and Obama's in. That's a perfect example of what is really going on.
Exactly.
Right?
That was a little peek under the curtain, the green curtain.
Yeah, totally.
Here's the thing.
But hold on. Let me finish.
They really would have liked Hillary to be his running mate, and therefore being ready to step in so it shouldn't happen to Obama. But they wanted to give Obama the chance to do all the stuff that he has actually done, and so that's why they put shotgun Biden on the ticket. He was Obama's insurance policy.
Right.
Nobody wanted to get rid of Obama if they knew they were going to get Biden.
And she's still got Secretary of State out of the deal.
She still got Secretary of State and was probably much more effective than Vice President. Okay, she's the one now that signed all the deals. By the way, back to the shooting of Lavoy Finnegan, the reason that all has to do with the BLM taking all the land from the Hammonds, and the reason they're taking the land from the Hammonds is the same reason they try and take the land from the Bundys, which is we have another repeat of Teapot Dome. Teapot Dome is the biggest scandal in America prior to Watergate. It took place about 1920-21 when it was found that the Secretary of the Interior was selling gas and oil rights to public land, the Teapot Dome Naval Reserves in California. It was a huge scandal, and I think he went to jail. Okay, now it's the same thing. Harry Reid was trying to, he had already gotten millions of dollars from the Chinese who wanted to build a solar plant out in Nevada, but they needed the Bundy property. So Harry Reid had put one of his former associates in as head of BLM, and they were trying to run the Bundys off their land so he could get hold of it and finish his multi-million-dollar deal with the Chinese. Now, we move to Oregon, we find the same thing going on. They're trying to get the Hammonds off their land because a shadowy Canadian company called Uranium One has the mineral rights, has the uranium rights to some of the public land up there, which was approved and sold to Russia thanks to Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. Now, it just so happens, as reported by the New York Times, that 7 of the executives of Uranium One contributed $145 million to Hillary Clinton's campaign.
That's right.
So, see, the same thing's going on. This isn't about wildlife. This isn't about federal government. This isn't about anything. This is plain old corruption and criminal activity on the part of federal officials. And they're using the federal bureaucracy to take away land from these families who had settled there and had rights to that property going all the way back into the 1800s.
But you know what's funny about that, Jim? And please listen to me on this. Had the Bundys up there and had Lavoy up there mentioned uranium and the connections going back with Hillary from the word go, they might have had a little bit more attention from the mass media, number one. Number two, some independent...
a lot of them, almost everybody except maybe one or two of them. I think some of the Bundys were beginning to figure it out.
Right.
Lavoy Finnegan knew about all this.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's been just recently discovered and reported on in the New York Times.
And so for the rest of the country, myself included, we were wondering about what was going on up there because there wasn't anything that motivational there. Had they brought up uranium,
you know, they technically they first arrested them for setting a prairie fire. Okay?
Right.
In court, it turned out that they had set this as a backfire to stop a prairie fire that was going to devastate hundreds of thousands of acres, and they got it stopped by starting a backfire on their property, something that the BLM has done plenty of times. That's just, you know, one of the standard operating procedures for stopping a prairie fire. But the government came along because they wanted their land and tried them for setting this fire. And even the trial judge at the time said, well, you know, technically under the law, you're guilty. He said, but I can see what you did, and there was no criminal intent, no maliciousness. So he gave him a very light sentence. Both the son and the father of the Hammonds went and served jail terms for like 6 months.
Right.
But that wasn't enough for the federal government. No.
Right.
They wanted that property so that Hillary could make some money. So they, again, dragged them back into court on double jeopardy, this time charging them with the same thing, setting the fire, but this time under our terrorism law. Now they're terrorists, okay? Now, how about that? And these people, see, they didn't understand the whole overall scheme. They just knew that they were being robbed of their property and were being treated unfairly by the federal government. But let's face it, come on, Jimmy, even you and I, as cynical and knowledgeable as we are, we still like to try to think that, well, if it's the government, it must be for the good of everybody. You know, it's hard for people to shake off that lifetime of conditioning through school and church and family, political parties and everything else, saying, well, the government's there to help you.
Well, like I said, they would have had some support if they would have been able to talk about any of this, and they didn't, and so it was confusing for all of us, including me. I mean, I was just like, it doesn't make any sense.
Now you're stepping on my toes, not me personally, but as a trained and credentialed journalist.
Right.
Where are the journalists? They should be looking into this.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Why does the journals of today just accept the government accounts, and nobody seems to look behind the headlines to find out what's really going on?
Right.
Except me, and then I get to go on Jimmy Church's show.
Right.
Nobody hears this otherwise. You don't hear me on Oprah. You don't hear me on CNN.
Right. Yeah, I had heard about a month ago about this whole uranium side of it, and I was like, you know what? That's shocking. That's a big deal. That's news.
That should be headlines all across the country. That should be on CNN, you know, for weeks on end. People need to understand that the federal government is out of control, and it's nothing new, folks.
Right.
We've been sold a bill of goods that back in 1861. You know, there was a war to free the slaves. Well, it's simply not true. That whole issue of slavery never came up until midway through that war when Lincoln, who was, and by the way, you need to check, he was in favor of shipping all the black people to South America, okay? Boy, he was really good, wasn't he? And he issued the Emancipation Proclamation for one reason only, and that was to try to prevent France and England from recognizing the South as an independent country. And it worked, okay? But now if you'll go and check, you'll find that the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all slaves. It only stated that the slaves in the states under rebellion were free. Well, it was a nothing deal. He had no authority. He had no pressure on the states that were in secession. It did not free any one slave that was still being held in the territories of the United States, and there was a lot of them, okay? California, all like that. It didn't free any slaves there. We've just been sold a bill of goods. It's the same problem that they were facing in 1860. Who's going to run your life? You, your local elected representatives, and then their representatives, or some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C.?
We're going to be heading towards a break, and so I want to kind of set this up on the backside. Well, we have Podesta, we have Hillary's comments that she made at the refrigerator, at the newspaper, I think it was in New Hampshire, about getting to the bottom of the alien agenda and Area 51 and Podesta and his stuff. And then you had Obama on Ellen a couple of weeks ago talking to a 6-year-old little girl about aliens. And then, of course, you could throw in the X-Files and all of this other stuff that has been happening in the media lately. I want to discuss what all of that means and what the message is that somebody out there is trying to deliver to us. Our guest tonight is Jim Mars, as he giggles. Our guest is Jim Mars. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. We'll be right back. More with The View from Mars right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Not being able to fall asleep is so frustrating. The tossing, the turning, the adjustment of pillows and blankets. Eventually you just decide to get up and start your day really early. It doesn't have to be this way though. Power Sleep is an all-natural non-prescription formula that will help you sleep like a baby. It contains neurotransmitter nutrients that promote the production of serotonin, which is responsible for feelings of well-being. Power Sleep is easy to digest and absorb and is made in a base of active probiotics. Don't miss another night of sleep. Order your Power Sleep at EnergyWave.com or call 800-TURTLE-5. Add Power Vites to your cart while you're browsing. Perfect for Monday mornings. They're a complete multivitamin and mineral formula that will give you the energy you need to get through your day. Nourish your immune system and feel great. Get all the info and place your order at EnergyWave.com. Enter code word SLEEP to get free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. This is what overnight radio is all about. A conversation like we're having right now. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. With us is the one and only Jim Mars. Hey, Jim, check this out. This is why I love doing this show. I love, pissing people off, making them angry, causing them to think. And then I like it when you have the other side that goes, you know what, it's about time we heard something like this. You know, and then you kind of meet people in the middle. But when somebody says, and I was just watching this fly by in Twitter, so much from, I didn't even catch the name. I just caught the comment. that too much right-wing talk on this show, right? Now they don't get, if they say something like that, because I'm not right, I'm not left, I am smart. There's a difference, right?
I'm not either.
Right, exactly. And if they
I'm for truth and common sense.
That's it. And if somebody doesn't want to just stop and listen, you don't have to agree. But if you get angry and listen to this show and then go and read and investigate for yourself and just go and find out, you may, in the end, you and I could be dead wrong. But the point is, at least
you'll have found out for yourself,
right?
You'll be a better person.
Exactly. And you know what?
Letting everybody else think for you. These liberals, they listen to liberal websites and they listen to liberal TV shows, and they just soak themselves in it to the point to where they can't hear anything else. And I'm not against the liberals, because the hard right conservatives do the same thing.
Yeah,
wait. Go out and stretch your wings a little bit. Start thinking for yourself.
Liberal, it's funny because I go both ways. I do. I go both ways, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Hey, here, I'm all for legalization of pot, and I think you should own a gun to protect it. Now, what does that make me?
You should run for president. Yeah, and there is nothing right-wing conservative about saying, if you don't stop and observe what is going on right now. I was sitting with Rita last night. I wish you were here. I wish you and Rita were here with Rita and I last night.
I always have a good time with Rita.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rita and I turned to her and I said, we're in a really weird spot right now with this country. And Rita and I don't talk about it a whole lot, because even her and I will, we'll get a good knockdown, drag out conversation about this, because the whole country is sensitive right now. We got riots at Trump rallies, and right now, next thing you know, if stuff jumps off at a Bernie Hillary, then things are starting to step off.
Is that this is exactly what the New World Order wants and is working for. They would love nothing better than for some violence to break out between the right and the left, and then they can step in and say, well, we'll bring in the United Nations peacekeeping force, we'll restore peace and order, and there'll be enough knuckleheads who only think by what they hear on TV that would probably go, yes, that's a good idea, and then, then we're an occupied country. This is just ridiculous. Nobody seems to have any sense anymore. Nobody stops to think. Nobody stops to learn history. Nobody's reading anymore. They just watch TV and react.
Yes. So just listen to shows like this and just keep your ears open. And I've said it so many times.
And your mind open. Your mind is like a parachute. It works better when it's open.
Yeah, people, my dad told me when I was a kid, I was like 5-6 years old, and I didn't get it for a while, but he goes, the world is full of too many people that talk. Nobody listens. Right? Yeah, it is. I mean, truer words have never been spoken.
It's
right there.
True.
Now, what do you think? What do you make of this whole alien agenda thing?
Talks to all these people. Hey,
It's
what they call disclosure, which would be, the public finally hearing and accepting the idea that we're not alone in the universe, that there are other folks out there. This disclosure thing is happening. Okay, we're on the tail end of a conditioning program that began back in the 50s. Okay, in the 50s, the national polls showed that virtually nobody, I mean like 95% of the people polled, said no, there is no life outside of this earth. That was the popular belief back in the early 50s. I know because my Baptist mother told me. I told her I was reading Ray Bradbury and Arthur C. Clarke and Robert Heinlein, and I said, man, it's great. In the future, we're going to have satellites circling the Earth, and we're going to have space stations, and we're going to go to the moon. And she said, quit filling your head with that nonsense. Said, there's nothing out there. And I clearly remember the afternoon I came home from school in the fall of 1957, picked up the newspaper on the front step, and it said, Russia has put a satellite in orbit, the Sputnik. And I went in and I said, look, this is what I've been talking about. And you know what? I never heard a word out of her again about filling my head with nonsense. But that was the thought in the 50s. Today, the polls show virtually the opposite. Virtually 85-90% of the people today are ready to accept the idea that we're not alone and that there's other folks out there in the universe. Now, that's quite a turnaround. And why is that? Is it because everybody just suddenly woke up and said, oh, I think there's aliens out there? No, it's because we've been in a 50, 60-year conditioning program. We get Star Wars and Star Trek. We get X-Files. We get the Barney Hill books. We get all of these happenings. We get Stephenville. We get to fly over Phoenix. You know, we get all of this stuff. Okay,
and you get and Jim, you also get Independence Day, Transformers.
Independence Day, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's because all you have to do is read the report from Iron Mountain, which was a legitimate report, no matter what anybody will tell you. And this was conducted back in the early 60s after Kennedy took office, and the military-industrial complex was concerned about if peace breaks out, what are we going to do? You know, well, that because they had figured out already that the primary motivation for government is to provide for the common defense. So they had a problem with UFOs, because if they admitted UFOs were flying through our airspace, and we not only couldn't stop them, but we didn't even know for sure who they were, then why are we paying all this military-industrial complex for defense? So they said, what are we going to do? So they had a big meeting. They finally figured out that we have to have a common enemy to, keep the wheels of the military-industrial intelligence complex going. And that if a earthbound enemy, in fact, it was first said it'll be the international communism was the common enemy. And when communism collapsed, then it became the terrorist from the Middle East. Well, that's waning now because, how much trouble can a few of those guys cause? So now what they're preparing is the next common enemy is going to be a threat from space. That was written down in 1962. So this is what they're preparing for. But how are you going to convince people there's a threat from space if nobody believes there's anything out there? So we've been in this conditioning process to condition us to the idea of aliens and space aliens, and yes, even to bad space aliens, as in Independence Day and many other of these science fiction shows. And so we are now, it's coming down to the wire. We're coming to the end of it. And now even presidential candidates, they are now talking in guarded but nevertheless positive statements about, well, we're not the only ones around. And, they got to wait about another 10 years, 5 or 10 years for all the old folks who just refuse to admit to that and open their mind. They'll all die off. And all the younger people that were brought up on Star Wars and Star Trek, and they're going to say, well, the aliens are here, and everybody, instead of freaking out, everybody's going to go, yeah, okay.
How serious do we take Podesta? He's a smart guy, right? He's a very smart man. Right. And he knows what he's tweeting. He knows what he's saying. He knows about his influence in both Hillary and the Obama administration. He's a very serious guy. Do we take him at his word? In other words, is he lying when he says these things?
Why would he?
Well, that's my point.
All he's doing is opening himself up to ridicule by the people who won't accept that reality.
Well, that's
he's just there pushing along the conditioning process.
And I guess my point is, do we take it at face value, right?
Sure.
Do we take the tweet at face value because you know that he is opening himself up to ridicule? So why do it?
Like you said, he's a smart guy. He's not going to do that just for giggles, okay? He's doing that either because he's been ordered to say that or because he truly feels that's the truth and it needs to get out.
What do you and when we start to look at the other things that are going on with the space program and talking about Mars and going back to the moon, have we had a black project that has been going on in the background continuously? And
yes,
and
we've had a secret space program that is the product of what is now being called a breakaway civilization, which I equate to the New World Order, to the globalist, okay? And this all started with the Nazi rocket scientists who got split up between Russia and the United States at the end of World War II. We got a bunch of them, Russia got a bunch of them. And what nobody knows, but you would know if you read my book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, that these guys are all in contact with each other, okay? So through the 50s and 60s, while Russia was building these heavy lift rockets that were able to put big payloads up into space, that's why they were the first of putting a satellite, a man, woman, a dog, Laika, into space, and we were running behind. And that's why in 62, Kennedy said, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And he staked our national reputation on that. Well, it got to be, August of 1969, and the decade was quickly coming to a close, and they had to make something happen. So that's when we got Apollo 11. But all through this time, we were working on computer systems and guidance systems, and there's this globalist who and these Russians who were in touch through these Nazi scientists. They were able to put the heavy lift rockets from the Soviets and the guidance systems from the United States together, and they had a third dark space program that they were able to utilize and start taking advantage of. And they are now to the point to where the reason that we don't see any of those rockets lifting off from Cape Canaveral anymore, going to the moon and to Mars, except for a few odd deep space missions, is because that's obsolete technology. They're using energy propulsion. Okay, so while we've been watching these giant rockets, boom, whoosh, lifting off from Cape Canaveral over there in the Okefenokee Swamp or somewhere,
right,
they're lifting up on anti-gravity.
And so to take this one step further, with this all this conversation of Mars and going back to the moon, is it a weird way to indoctrinate us once again into what is going to be revealed? That's the...
Yes. See, I don't know. Come on, Jimmy. I'm not sure how old you are, but something tells me you weren't around in the 50s and the early 60s when we were so propagandized about the wonders of outer space, man. All the schools were geared towards mathematics and engineering. Astronauts were the heroes of the day.
Right.
We were going into space, and we were going to go to the moon. We were going to set up a colony on the moon. We were going to mine the resources and the minerals of the moon.
Right.
It was going to pay for the space program. We were going to spread out, and we're going to have the human race occupying the whole solar system, And
right.
Then,
stopped.
We just stopped. Okay, and we supposedly went to the moon 6 times, and then said, well, it's kind of a cold, dead world, and we've got all these rockets ready. We had 22 of those big Atlas rockets that had put Apollo in around the moon, but they're just sitting there, and they said, well, it just costs so much money. Come on, Jimmy, that's like building a Rolls Royce by hand and then saying, well, we can't afford the gasoline, so we can't run it.
And I've often wondered about that. And to answer your question, I was born in 1963. So by the
You're a young whippersnapper.
Yeah, I'm a young guy, but thank you for but by the end of the 60s, 1970, all of us kids, us boys around the United States, we all had our favorite astronaut. We were all drawing pictures of moon bases. That's what we did. And the entire focus
today.
Yeah, and the entire focus of everything back then.
They're playing zombie.
Right. And it doesn't make any sense that we would put the kibosh on it unless we were doing something in the background. That's the only way that makes sense.
As I am fairly convinced, somewhere along the line, we were told, don't come back. We've been quarantined. Because somebody out there says, look, as long as you guys are fighting and killing and blowing each other up and setting off nuclear devices, you just stay in your own territory. Don't come up here spreading that stuff around.
Yeah, we do shoot first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do shoot first.
We do.
Excuse me. I had to hit the cough button. Came out of nowhere. It's so funny when you are when you're excited like I am and you drink coffee, it will always go down the wrong pipe.
That's right.
And it'll manage to do it live on the air.
Well, let me tell you something, who, as your senior, it doesn't get any better.
And I'm doing it right now, too. But so back to what is going on. It's not a coincidence that Obama was on Ellen 2 weeks ago talking about aliens once again, twice in a year.
No.
And
Hey,
Podesta.
if you see something on Ellen, if you see something on Oprah, if you see something on Jimmy Kimmel, I don't know, any of these major network programs, I'm here to tell you, none of that is truly extemporaneous. They know everybody's going to be on there. They know exactly what they're going to talk about. In fact, in many instances, they're told what to talk about, unlike Jimmy Church. And so, you know, anything you hear on there, for most of the time, it's all innocuous anyway. It's just, you know, jokes or old narratives, or usually it's plugging some TV or movie, you know. It's just an advertisement. Because think of how many times they've had somebody on there like, I don't know, Tom Cruise or, you know, some big superstar, and all he talks about is just what it's like on his latest movie, and, oh, it's going to be so good, and I had such a wonderful time, and the crew was so nice, and you don't hear anything real. You know, if I had Tom Cruise or some celebrity in front of me, I want to say, you know, how do you really live? You know, what do you do day to day? What's your wife like? You know, what was your childhood like? I'd ask real questions. You know, what are your politics? But no, we rarely get any of that. It's just so don't think that if you see something on TV that you're getting, you might get a laugh and you might hear an interesting story, but it's all staged, okay?
And you had brought up, 90%, probably, it might even be higher, 90% of the population right now knows that we're not alone. And right. You go and you pull something like Podesta, and I believe what he had tweeted. I truly believe he believes in what he was saying. But Jimmy, is it a way to sway votes?
Stuff, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because I know the same thing. Now, let me back up. Have I ever seen a UFO? Not as far as I know. I've seen some strange lights in the sky, but I'd never try to, get up in court and swear it was a UFO. I don't know. Have I ever seen an alien? Not that I know of, okay? But as a professional journalist for more than 50 years, I have talked to too many police officers and pilots, military and commercial, air traffic controllers, police officers, you name it. And they have told me some incredible stories. And after a while, you finally go, wait a minute. All these people can't be lying or deluded or just making this stuff up. And so you come to not just believe, but to know that it's all true. And when you get to the position like Podesta or a Hillary Clinton or an Obama, they may not have had any personal experience either, but they know it's real. It's just the poor old questioning taxpayers out here who are still grappling with the questions about, is any of that real or not? And that just simply gets back down to your belief system. And everybody, just like everybody has a nose, everybody's got a belief. And that's fine. I'll fight to the death for Jimmy Church's right to believe whatever he wants to believe, no matter how demented and wrong it is. But believing in something and knowing something is not the same.
Right. And do we really need to know, Jim, about what is going on at Area 51? Do we really need to know that?
Yes. I tell you, this is what really disturbs me about modern America. We seem to be making all the wrong decisions. We make the wrong decisions in politics. We make the wrong decisions in foreign policy, And why is that? That's because we are generally not operating from a position of truth. I happen to be actually kind of an optimistic kind of guy. I happen to think that the average American has some sense, okay, and they're reasonably educated. And if they were given the full facts of any particular event, they would be able to make a reasonably good decision on that event. But see, when you get, I don't care how smart you are, you could be the most brilliant person in the world. You could have an IQ of 176. But if you're operating from incomplete or erroneous information, you'll never be able to make a decent decision.
So what, I mean, should things, you know my position on this, but I just want to hear yours. Should things be kept secret? Certain things. Do we need the world to know about our future airplane technology? I mean, do we need to disclose that?
I was in military intelligence during the Vietnam War. Of course, there's a few things that need to be kept secret from the public so that it doesn't get to our potential enemies, such as our latest weapons technology, our latest counterterrorism, tactics, a few things. Okay, and I can see that, and I think most level-headed people would agree with that.
Right.
The problem is the corrupt and criminal people who've gotten in control of our government, they now lie to us even when there's no reason to do so. They will usually come out with a lie before they'll come out with the truth, simply because they're conditioned to do it and because they have pushed the thing to the point to where any and everything gets classified.
And
Hillary Clinton probably wouldn't be in trouble if all those thousands of classified emails she got hadn't been classified in the first place. And probably except for maybe a dozen or a handful, probably most of that stuff didn't need to be that classified.
Yeah. And
again, we're either a nation of laws or we're not. Now, what kills me is Edward Snowden releases classified information, and they want to extradite him and hang him, electrocute him, kill him. Hillary Clinton releases classified information, she's still running for president. What kind of hypocrisy is that?
That's
That's
no doubt.
the problem, Jimmy. We're either going to be a nation of laws or we're not. And if we're not, okay, let's just say we're not, and we'll let everything slide. We'll rob banks and rape, pillage, kill, whatever,
Well, here's
a nation of law, then everyone, I don't care what your position or what your rank in the government is, should be punishable under the law.
Is your Twitter?
Why the people who murdered Lavoy Finnegan should be on trial for murder.
Is your Twitter account suspended? Did something happen?
I don't know. I don't go on Twitter.
Okay, there you go.
I haven't got time to mess with that.
All right, somebody.
And chances are, if I was on Twitter, they would cancel it.
Let me ask you this. This is what's really weird. Talk about hypocrisy in laws. And I'm not a Hillary supporter, so everybody just needs to back up. But what I'm confused about, if she didn't have that server in her house, right, and that server was at the Pentagon, then is she not in trouble? Right?
No, she'd still be in trouble because it went out over a public server.
That's what I'm saying.
If she had a computer in the Pentagon, it would go through their encryption system.
Is that the issue? I'm so confused on it. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm so confused.
And what even makes it worse is that when some underling notified her that, hey, some of this stuff is classified, did she say, oh, well, let's gather it all up and get it back under control? No, she just said, well, mark it unclassified. In other words, we'll just act like that didn't happen.
Yeah, that seems pretty criminal.
Sorry, but, we're either a nation of laws or we're not.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. When you get stopped going 5 miles over the speed limit on an empty road and clear day and no other traffic, and the cop wants to give you a ticket, you're pretty upset, aren't you? It's like, well, wait a minute. And what's his argument? Well, it's the law. Well, okay. If we have to be held to the strictest accountability of the law, how come our so-called elected leaders can't be?
That's right. Yeah, I'm just confused on the whole thing. I don't.
There's no confusion, Jimmy. It's simply hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And it's two levels of, it's a dual responsibility.
Well, no,
they can do it, but we can't.
Well, this is what I'm saying, Jim. For
George
Hillary,
W. Bush could snort coke, but you can't.
Well, for Hillary, there's no defense. If you are Secretary of State, what are you doing with an email server in your house?
Exactly. Because
End of story.
If Jimmy Church puts out classified information through his server on his computer, he goes to jail.
Right.
Now, if Hillary Clinton is Secretary of State, she should be held to an even higher standard of operation than Jimmy Church.
Yeah, just a little. Just a little bit.
It's not right. And here's the thing. I don't care. The dumbest member of our society who doesn't watch TV, doesn't read anything, doesn't know anything, they know this. They know. They understand that the big guys can get away literally with murder. and that but they're going to get messed with if they try to boost a car or shoplift something. They're not stupid. They understand that. And this is why we have so much problem in our country right now. Number one, we have too many laws, okay? And so we need to trim them all down to some basics. And, interestingly enough, the basics are pretty well laid down a few thousand years ago. Thou shalt not, right? Not kill, not steal, very basic stuff. And we need to go back to that and then enforce it right across the board. I don't care if you're Hillary Clinton or Bernie Madoff,
Yeah, right.
If you violate the law, you get prosecuted and punished.
Let's take a quick break. Let's take some phone calls when we come back. What do you say, Jim?
Sure.
Let's do it. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jim Mars going to take your phone calls next. 323-825-5045. This is Fade to Black. I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
If your home has hard water and it's leaving white spots, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes. Limescale can cost hundreds of dollars a year in wasted energy and early appliance breakdown. HydroCare systems available at Wave Home Solutions prevent and remove limescale with just a simple filter change every 3 years. There are no salts, chemicals, or magnetic coils. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, just go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
If you're a talk radio fan, AccessRadio.net lets you listen to the best talk shows anytime and from anywhere. Works on your mobile or landline phone, and there's no cost if you have unlimited minutes. No need to use your data. Find your favorite talk show listen lines and discover new ones. Now you can listen on your schedule. Go to AccessRadio.net. That's AccessRadio.net. Save your favorite listen lines today.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood. Not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Tonight, our guest is Jim Mars, The View from Mars Live. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Opening up the phone lines right now, 323-825-5045. Jim, I got a text in during the break.
Well, I am text.
Yeah, and so this is the text. This is the promoter of an event in Big Bear, California, and which is a UFO event, and we just did it, the winter version, and the other one is coming up in August, and he says he would like to fly you out to California and give you a Lifetime Achievement Award. And would you accept?
Well, tell him to get in touch with me. What was the date on that again?
It is, I've got it right here in front of me, August 19th, 20th, 21st.
Well, I'll tell you what, when we're off air, let me give you my email address and just pass that along to him, and I'll be glad to take a look at it.
All right, there you go. All right.
Wow, Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, just like that.
That's kind of cool.
He's listening to the show, and nobody deserves it more. I just gave, George and I did that 2 years ago at Conscious Life. That was pretty cool. That was a fun day. All right, let's go to the phones, Jim. The calls are starting to line up.
Wait, before we go to the phones, I'm going to give you a scoop, okay?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's put anything out about this yet, and so I want to make sure that you get the word. You know about the Aurora spaceship crash, right?
Yes.
All right. Aurora, Texas, a little hamlet just down the road from me, and the city of Aurora is finally getting on the ball. And on April the 16th, which is a Saturday, and the incident happened on April the 19th, 1897, 6 years before the Wright brothers flew, a silver cigar-shaped object crashed in Aurora, and it was covered by the Dallas Morning News, which is still in publication. And the story said the pilot, whose remains were badly disfigured, but enough were recovered to show he was not an inhabitant of this world.
Right.
So a something flying in the air, 6 years before the Wright brothers flew, nothing man-made in the air, crashed in Aurora, Texas, 1897, and the pilot, they said, was not of this world. Well, on April the 16th, they're going to have an Aurora alien encounter event, okay? And it's going to be in Aurora, Texas. And it's going to wait a minute. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Scratch that. I may be looking at the wrong thing. No, that's right. April 16th, Aurora, Texas. So everybody, if you're in the area or want to come see what happened at Aurora, just Google Aurora alien encounter and pick up on the information. I'm going to be there, and Travis Walton's going to be there, Nick Redford, and several other people. And it's just a one-day deal, but it ought to be really, really neat, and it's going to tell the true story of what actually happened in Aurora, Texas in 1897.
You know what's funny about that whole case, Jim, is they buried him, right? Yep. They gave him a funeral. And
the Fort Worth paper, the one I saw, said he was given a Christian burial in the Aurora Cemetery.
And so his body is out there somewhere.
Somewhere, but it's not in Aurora. we have used metal detecting equipment, ground penetrating radar, and have confirmed that there was a very short grave there, but there doesn't appear to be anything in it. And I know some of the people I was working with years ago, I said, well, who do you think took the stuff out of the grave? And I said, do you think that was UFO researchers, investigators? And they went, no, we think it's the government.
Yeah.
And I do too.
Yeah, clipped the windmill. Okay, let's go to the phones. Hi, you live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Jim Mars. Who's calling? You're live.
Hello, gentlemen. Good evening. Mr. Mars, Mr. Church.
Howdy.
Pleasure. Hello. Mr. Mars, I cannot tell you the hours of flipping pages and listening to interviews, and I'm delighted to speak to you tonight. And I honestly cannot think of a question. I have a statement.
Okay.
A couple of interviews you said, I don't know why I'm screaming, nobody's listening. Well, we're listening. And I really think it's important. A lot of people say, well, why do you want to bring up, something that happened in 1963? Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Kennedy, our president, that got taken away. Well, because I honestly believe that America hit their knees that day.
Right.
And we never really got up.
I totally agree with you.
We never really stood correctly again. And that's how I see it.
And I agree with you 100%, and that's why I tell people to study the John F. Kennedy assassination. Yes, it is a morass because of the cover-up. Now, the cover-up in the Kennedy assassination is not a normal cover-up. Normally, when you say something's covered up, then they hide all the information, the facts, and the evidence so that nobody knows anything. In this case, there's very little hidden, okay? But they have confused the issue. They have been so many charges, counter-charges, claimed and counterclaims that the average guy just goes, hey, man, it makes my head hurt. I don't want to hear about that anymore. But you should. You should dig into it. And if you do your research, you will find that there was a coup d'etat, a palace revolt in the United States. The government changed hands just like Jack Ruby said it would, and we have not been the same since. And if we are ever going to return to the freedom and individual liberty that we had going into 1963, we've got to start by clearing up that case.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for the phone call.
Real quick, Jimmy, if I may.
Sure.
I was wondering if Mr. Mars could, a lot of people don't realize, I never bought into the whole Camelot thing myself either, and I don't even know if I believe the whole PT 109 thing. But he seemed to be a president that was out to try to help us a little. Could you tell us a little bit about the Northwoods for the younger listeners who may not have been around in that time, know a little bit about what went behind the
about
scenes,
Northwoods?
what stopped us from, Northwoods, sir, if you don't mind.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I can tell you about Northwoods. Well, let me tell you something. We didn't know about that back in 1962. That was a deep, dark secret. That only became public in about 1991, and it's really kind of ironic how it came about. First off, as to Operation Northwoods, this was a plan that was set out by the Pentagon in the spring of 1962. Following the year before was the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion, which totally failed. That was when Kennedy began to understand that the CIA and the Pentagon were out of control, and he began to institute plans to try to bring them back under civilian control, which, of course, did not make them very happy with him. But in Operation Northwoods, basically was a plan to hijack ships, hijack aircraft, assassinate American citizens in American cities, set off bombs in American cities, and blame it all on Castro. In other words, false flag operations. Excuse me. Okay, now what you absolutely have to understand is that this plan, horrendous as it was actually approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They thought it was a good plan. Kennedy was the one who said, hey, we don't play that way. This makes us no better than anybody else. So he ordered that Operation Northwoods be scratched and that they destroy all the copies of it, because he didn't even want people to know that we were even planning stuff like that. Well, ironically enough, and typical government, one set of Operation Northwoods plans didn't get destroyed. It was hidden away somewhere in a government file. And in the early 90s, in the wake of the Oliver Stone movie, JFK, Congress initiated the Assassination Records Review Board and ordered them to go through government files and find anything that had to do with the Kennedy assassination or that era. Well, they found Operation Northwoods. And I want to tell you folks right now that on September the 11th, 2001, some form of Operation Northwoods was perpetrated on us.
Yeah, and if and thank you for the call. What was your name?
It's Cisco.
Oh, thank you, Cisco. Yeah,
thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the phone call. If you have any questions about look, I don't know the bottom line with 9/11. I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom line. But if you ever want to question the fact that we would do something like that, there it is right there, Operation Northwoods. It's in black and white, and they actually thought through the Joint Chiefs that it was a good idea. And you can go read it right now. I've talked about it so much on the show, Jim, and it's chilling.
It is. Let me tell you one of the scenarios that is in Operation Northwoods. I have a complete file on that. There are plans in my files. One of the scenarios they planned was to take and listen to how this matches what may have happened on 9/11. Their plan called for taking an American commercial airliner, finding a similar aircraft, the same type aircraft, painted up like it's a, American Airline or United or some commercial airliner, send it off under remote control, send it off out over the Caribbean, and then trigger an onboard recording that broadcast on the radio saying, help, we're under attack by Castro planes, and then by remote control, they would trigger a bomb, blow this plane up over the Caribbean, and then blame it all on Castro so that they could mount another invasion of Cuba. Now, wait a minute. Doesn't that sound, let's go again and let's think about 9/11. You got U.S. airliners who dropped off radar at one point and then suddenly were back, suddenly traveling cross country unimpeded with no jet interceptors, no one trying to stop them, false images on the FAA radars indicating at least 25 hijacked airplanes that totally confused them. Our whole $40 billion defense system is in confusion and didn't know what was happening. And then these three planes, two of them crashed into the World Trade Center. One of them supposedly crashed into the Pentagon. The other one went down in Pennsylvania, supposedly. Doesn't that sound eerily similar to what they had planned in 1962?
It'll make your hair stand up. And I totally agree with you. It's just Operation Northwoods, and this is nothing this wasn't some willy-nilly thing by an underling. This went through the Joint Chiefs.
And this was no conspiracy theory.
No.
This was a true conspiracy.
Yes. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Jim Mars. Who's calling?
My name is Rick. I appreciate y'all taking my call. I just wanted to ask Jim if he had any information or has looked into a story that seems to be kind of buried. It was about two Hellfire missiles being interrupted in, looks like, Serbia that were headed toward Portland, Maine, and they're originating from Lebanon. Serbian press stated that they were, or the Lebanese stated that they were not armed and were being sent back to the U.S. company that made them. And it seems like the story just ended there. That was reported by the Oregonian out of Washington State.
Yes. I read it today myself. Actually, it was in my news that I didn't get to today. But anyway, Jim, so the two missiles were packed in I think a casket, right? And the bomb sniffing dogs, found the two missiles.
But was it on the way to the Middle East or coming back from the Middle East?
No, it was in. I thought it was in Europe. I can go back to the article. I have it here, but it was shipping.
What Rick said, it sounded like that they were coming back, that they were somehow defective, and they were returning it to the manufacturer in the United States. Is that what I got, Rick?
No.
What I got is they originated from Lebanon. They were essentially being found in two coffins in Serbia by bomb-sniffing dogs, and they stopped them right there. This was reported in the Oregon initially because the media reported it as going to Portland, Oregon, when in fact they were going to Portland, Maine. And so they were actually stopped in Lebanon and never made it to their destination, which that's where the story just kind of died off.
What was the destination, do you recall?
Yeah, Portland. I thought it was Portland. Was it Portland, Maine or Portland, Oregon? Because it was reported by the Oregonian, so I was assuming it was Portland, Oregon. But Portland,
I believe that's why they were correcting the story. They put out a story. It's actually up on YouTube now. You can probably find it on their website. They're actually correcting that, stating that this was initially reported wrong. They're actually going to Portland, Maine.
Yeah,
and these were Hellfire missiles.
Yeah, two Hellfire 114 missiles. This is what I've got right here. Serbian authorities are investigating reports that a cargo package bound for Portland contained two missiles with explosive warheads on a passenger flight from Lebanon. N1 Television said the package with two guided armor-piercing missiles was discovered Saturday by a sniffer dog after Air Serbia flight from Beirut landed at a Belgrade airport. Serbian media says documents listed the final destination for the AGM-114 Hellfire missiles as Portland. It doesn't say Portland, Maine. The American-made projectiles can be fired from air, sea, or ground platforms.
What I'm finding here, Jimmy says Hellfire missiles were dummy rounds headed for Portland, Maine, not Oregon.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, and they were in a casket.
It says they were dummy rounds used for training.
And they were caskets.
In a casket. Well, this gets back to something I can tell you about, but we ain't got time to go into it.
Right.
But, guess who's arming the whole world? The United States. In my book, Population Control, what you're going to find is, according to congressional reports, 84% of the arms being sold around the world are coming from U.S. companies.
That's right.
84%. Now, you might say, yeah, but we got to keep up with the Russians and China's. Hey, Russia and China combined represents only 8% of arms being sold around the world. We are the arms motion of the world. In fact, if you'll go back to September the 13th, 2013, you'll find that Obama publicly announced that he was bypassing the law that prohibits anybody from selling arms to known terrorist groups because he wanted to arm the Syrian rebels. So we started sending missiles and weapons to the Syrian rebels, who, of course, turned out to be ISIS. If you guys are upset and fearful of ISIS, you have your own government to thank for forming them and for arming them.
Thank you for the phone call, Rick. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night. What do you make about Putin announcing today that they're pulling out of Syria?
Well, I think he saw the writing on the wall. We've been trying to get in a war with Russia now for several years, and Putin has skillfully sidestepped every provocation we've given him. But I think he realized that the situation in Syria, we just kept pressing on it. We keep, pouring in the arms, the ammunition, and now even troops, even though they won't admit it. We have special forces operating there. And I think he realized that he was getting really ready to get in a tinderbox situation, which could lead to World War III, and I think he's smart enough to get out of that.
Do you think that there is some strange message to al-Assad in this, too, as well?
Yeah. If I was al-Assad, I believe I would start making reservations at Bali or somewhere.
Yeah, because when I read between the lines.
But the thing is, Jimmy, stop and think about it. Now, here's what gets me. Assad, I don't even know the guy. He may be a nice guy. He may be a total, dictator and a true idiot, okay? But he was elected by the people in Syria. And obviously a good many of them are still supporting him. So what gives us the right to go in there and say, we don't like your government, get out?
None.
But what would we think if Russia came over here? In fact, if you'll remember, Jimmy, Putin, or maybe it wasn't Putin, but some Russian official said that if Texas should secede from the United States, that Russia would come and give us aid and comfort, okay? Now, and why did he say that? Because that's exactly what happened in the Ukraine. We sent our little CIA and special ops guys in there, and we got some of the hothead radicals stirred up, and they said, we want to break away from Russia. And Russia said, no, you can't do that. And all of a sudden, see, they're the bad guy. It's the same thing as if Russia came here and stirred up some hotheads in Texas, and believe me, I live around some, who said, yeah, we'll secede. Well, then, is the United States going to say, yeah, okay, go on your way? No, they say you can't do that, and they'd send troops. So here we go. It's, what's good for the cat is also good for the canary.
Yeah, because I thought, and again, we don't know the real truth about Syria. You're not there. I'm not there. I don't know what the hell's going on. But to have Putin strong-arm his way in there, right, to prop up Assad, he said that was their goal to begin with, right? And then to turn around after a few months and say we're pulling out, either they're running out of money, they can't afford to drop bombs. That could be part of it. Second, he knows that there's no end in sight, and they could be there for the next 20 years, just like we are.
That's it. That plus he knows that that could be a trap into putting him into World War III. But I do take umbrage of your styling that he muscled his way in. He was invited in by Assad, who, as I said, was duly elected by the people in Syria.
Right.
And so wait a minute, it's really nuts.
Yeah. No, I don't mean
all the way back to the Cold War, Jimmy. You probably don't remember this, but during the Cold War, one of the things that always got my goat was that Russia publicly to the world pledged that they would never be the first to use nuclear weapons, that they would only use them in retaliation for a nuclear attack on Russia. Well, at the time, I thought, well, wow, that's kind of cool. How about if we pledge the same thing? And that way, if we both stick to our pledges and nobody is first to use nuclear weapons, there won't be a nuclear war. But you know what? The United States would never give that pledge. And even today, the Pentagon, people within the Pentagon are still talking about first strike capability.
Right. Let's go back to the phones. One last call. Hi. Say you're live right now. Say hi to Jim Mars.
Hello, Mr. Mars. This is Casper Parks. Howdy. And I had a couple observations. The last 7 years, they've been doing these stop batch budgets, where it's like a budget's like 6 months, 12 months, and it seems like they used to be for 2 years at a time. And every time, to keep the government from shutting down, they pass last-minute legislation. Right. And they've been doing this for 7 years. Most recently, in December, a legislation that basically the people of the United States didn't want, CISPA, the Cyber Information Security Act, got tacked on as a rider legislation. Has nothing to do with the budget at all. And, of course, everybody votes for it and signs it because we can't shut down the government, And so over the last 7 years, they've been sticking all these omnibuses and rider legislation into these stopgap budgets. And they're getting stuff through that they would normally get through because the people don't want it. Then you look at all the politicians right now, they're all standing on stage and going, we're going to put biometrics into visas so we can track people who overstay their visas. They're like leading everybody by the nose. I mean, it's really incredible that they keep getting these things that we don't want passed into law through these budgets, and now we're talking adding biometrics to visas. But 2 or 3 years, that'll expand to your driver's license,
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head. This is not democracy. This is not what this country was intended to. The executive, the president, is supposed to be simply like the CEO. He's to see that the whole company operates efficiently. The judicial, the Supreme Court, is supposed to make sure that any laws passed conform to the Constitution of the United States. And all the laws are supposed to be passed by Congress. But this is all topsy-turvy now. Now the president, through executive orders and edicts, are basically setting law. The Supreme Court either, will not hear cases that need to be determined as to real law, or they have been swinging more and more, to the liberal side of things. And you're absolutely right. This thing about, we're running out of money and the government will have to come to a screeching stop, this is nothing more than just grandstanding and posturing, so as you so well put, so they can slip in legislation that they could not slip in any other way. And it makes a total mockery of democracy, and this needs to change. And one way we could do this is this November, when you go down, make a list of all of your representatives in Congress, your senator and your representatives, and then go in the voting booth and vote for somebody else. Let's put everybody who's in office out this November and send them a clear message that we're tired of business as usual and that we want a whole new set of faces in there. And then we got to watch whoever gets in, and then if they do like we think they should, then you vote them back in again. If not, then you vote them out. And you know what? That's not really a radical suggestion. That's the way it's supposed to work.
Thank you so much for the call, Casper.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're at a crossroads here, Jim. Do you want to stay and take a few more phone calls?
Sure.
After the break? Okay, let's do that.
I'm almost hoarse. So
yeah, I know, right?
Go the whole way.
All right, let's go ahead and do that. I'll pull in another phone call. This is Fade to Black. Let's head to a break. When we come back, more of your phone calls with Jim Mars right after this short break. This is Fade to Black. Always great when we have the view from Mars. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network, KGRA, The Planet. And you can come hang out with Jim and I at Contact in the Desert right now, June 3rd. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Angioprim can clean blocked arteries and improve blood flow in all parts of your body. Angioprim is liquid oral chelation. It's not new science. 50 years of research has gone into chelation, and now there's Angioprim. Easy, simple, liquid oral chelation. You take it with juice before breakfast and forget about it. Angioprim works fast, unlike old-fashioned chelation that takes hours. The first thing Angioprim users say is they have more energy, more strength, more endurance. Increased circulation and blood flow will make all your body parts work better. Log on now at angioprim.com to get more information on how you can get started and start feeling better and doing more. Lots more. Talk to a trained Angioprim consultant or go to angioprim.com for help. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. That's Angioprim at 877-882-7221. Get the facts about Angioprim. Begin living the life you want, doing the things you used to do again with Angioprim.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jim Mars, The View from Mars, live. Bespoke Radio on the Game Changer Network and KGRA. The Planet follows on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. And Jim, I got to tell you, the quote of the night is, you said you swing both ways. Let's legalize pot and have guns to protect your stash. I want that T-shirt.
That is a liberal conservative balance.
Man, I'm telling you, that is a T-shirt. Hey, listen, that phone call earlier was from Casper Parks, the author. He respects you so much. And I just tweeted back to him that I will give you a copy of one of his books the next time I see you.
That sounds great.
Yeah, he's a great author. You'll love his stuff. And so let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Jim Mars. Who's calling?
Mr. Mars, Jimmy. This is Josh from Texas.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
It's an honor to speak to you. Well, I'm in Granbury. I'm right down the road.
All right. Well, you're pretty close. You're Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yes, sir. I was calling. I bugged Jimmy a little bit. I have some photos of the day of the assassination at the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce that my father took. And there's one that's pretty wild. That's it also took a Monsignor DeWolf. They did a benediction there, and it's Kennedy's. He's the Monsignor's at the podium, and you can see the banner in the back that says Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. And anyway, it's Kennedy, his head bowed, and Monsignor doing the prayer. It's his last prayer, because it's probably about, I'm not quite sure on the time, but I think about an hour and 20 minutes later, he went outside, I believe, and spoke outside the Texas Hotel, and then went to Dallas, and then was assassinated. I think it was about an hour and 20 minutes later that he was, assassinated. I've also got photos of when they landed, was Meacham Field. Jackie O is John Conley, and Kennedy. She's in a different dress. And I got an autograph of Mr. Conley in '90. He came in to the place of business. But these are pictures that the world has never seen. And I'd like to email you and just talk to you how I should handle this.
Well, I think they ought to be available for everybody to take a look at. Of course, as far as I know, nothing happened in Fort Worth. It was that much out of the ordinary, but you do have some historical significance there. And although I've seen plenty of pictures, I would be most interested to see yours. How about posting them up on Facebook or putting them up on a website somewhere?
Okay, I can do that. I just wanted to get some advice, whether that's the right thing to do, or
yeah, I think so,
what.
Because I think they're of historical significance. For example, let me tell you this: what I do know is because within a few years I was working there very closely with the Fort Worth Police Department, so I got to talk to a lot of the city officials and county officials, and I got to know a lot of those guys. In fact, I was good friends with Jim Wright, who became Speaker of the House, and Senator Ralph Yarborough, and also John Tower, the first Republican in Texas. And they all told me about this trip to Fort Worth that morning. And here's what's interesting. See, the motorcade in Dallas in which Kennedy was shot, everybody's familiar with that, but they don't realize that was actually the second motorcade of that day, because that morning he had stayed in the Hotel Texas, and that morning, after making a few brief comments to a crowd outside, he spoke to the Chamber of Commerce breakfast. That's where the mayor at the time, Raymond Buck, gave him a white Stetson, and of course Kennedy was famous for not wearing any hats. And so, sure enough, he wouldn't put it on, but he held it and he said, "Yeah, I'll try this on in the White House on Monday." Of course, he never got a chance to. But anyway, then they took a motorcade from downtown Fort Worth down the West Freeway out to where Carswell Air Force Base was, where he took off in Air Force One for the short hop over to Dallas's Love Field. Now, the cops there in Fort Worth and the city officials told me that the security of this motorcade was incredibly strict and tight. They would not allow anybody on the overpasses over the West Freeway. And, in fact, I had a friend at the time that was working for Channel 11, which used to be on a multi-story building near Arlington Heights High School overlooking the West Freeway, and he told me how that he had been there working when the Secret Service came in and made everybody get away from the windows, closed and locked all the windows looking out onto the West Freeway, and wouldn't let anybody hang out the windows to see the president. Very, very tight security. Now, the reason I mention that is because when they got to Dallas, none of that happened. There were at least 15 people standing on the triple underpass. People were hanging out the windows of all office buildings all the way down in through town. So, I just find that very, very interesting that they had such tight security in the motorcade in Fort Worth and virtually none in the motorcade in Dallas.
One last question real quick. I wondered if you knew about the J.D. Tippit grave at Laurel Land.
What about it?
Well, I was pretty hard up back in the days. This is probably about close to 15 years ago. And they were training us. And they were going through the area. And they came up to they said, don't tell nobody, but this is where J.D. Tippit buried at. We buried him as a cremation, that he was cremated. And there was this little round black marker that was there. But they said they didn't cremate him, that it was actually a casket that was there.
Is that the Laurel Land? Is that the Laurel Land that was on the south side of Fort Worth?
Yes. Yes.
Well, would you believe that I got married in the little chapel in the middle of that cemetery?
Is that right?
Excuse me.
My wife hates me to tell that, but I tell people, yeah, we got married in a cemetery.
Wow.
But it has Josh, it's got a real pretty little chapel, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, and they got a real pretty crematorium too over there.
Yeah, I know about that. I was standing in the back waiting to go out for the wedding ceremony, and this was in May, and it was kind of warm anyway, but I was really kind of getting hot, and there's a brick wall right there, and it was really hot. And I asked one of the people there, I said, "Why is that wall so hot?" And they said, "That's the crematorium."
Only on my show. Only on my
show. You what, I'd like to send you high scan resolution pictures.
That would be great. Listen, hang on the phone, and maybe Jimmy will give you my email address.
Yeah, I'll take care of everything. Don't worry about that.
I would like to see those.
Yeah, we'll do that after the show tonight. And Josh, just to make double sure, shoot me an email really quick. I know I've got you in the system, but just double check. As soon as you hang up the phone here, just do that, and I'll hook you up with Jim, and I'll take care of everything. All right?
Thank you, Josh.
All right, Josh. Thank you for the phone call. Hey, Jim, let me ask you this. I was listening to something the other night. Man, these phone calls. All right, okay, one more, because I've got more I want to talk to Jim about.
Okay.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Turn me down. Turn me down.
Yes, please.
Okay. Who's calling? Say hi to Jim Mars.
Oh, yeah, this is Dennis Hill.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Oh, pretty good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Say hi to Jim Mars.
Hey, Jim. How's it going tonight? I was enjoying the show. I was wondering, have you heard anything about LBJ flying out to Midland Airport? That's kind of close to where I'm at. 2 or 3 nights before that assassination meeting with Billy Saul Estes at midnight.
That's kind of a new one on me. I wouldn't be surprised. He finally hooked up with Kennedy, I believe, in Fort Worth, so he certainly could have been out in Midland. And I do know that at that time he was probably very concerned about what Billy Saul Estes was either saying or might say. But do you know that for sure that he traveled out there?
Well, it's kind of a local. Not a well-known legend, just kind of a under-the-radar type story. And I haven't heard a lot of other sources about it, but I think about it every once in a while. And
yeah, that's certainly interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Well, he was in a lot of weird things, Billy Saul was, and he also said a lot of things that weren't quite true, so...
Yeah, that's true too. But now you watch. Jim Mars tomorrow is going to be looking at flight information. Hey, Dennis, thank you for the phone call and thank you for the information. Really appreciate it, brother.
Y'all have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, that's the beauty of this show, Jim, and you out there with everybody. We don't know everything, and
That's true.
You know, and you get little things like that, and it just makes you go, you know. Now,
Well,
I wanted
hey, come on, Jimmy. Remember my motto, okay?
What's that?
None of us are as smart as all of us.
That's exactly right. I swear. Thank you for that. Okay. I was listening to, I'm not going with names or anything like that, but I was listening to this theory the other day. And the theory is this, and you may have heard it and you may know who I'm talking about, but let's not name names. Okay. Let's not go there. But the theory that Kennedy faked his death. Right. That all of it was, it was Hollywood special effects and scripts and fake gunshots and so forth. So he could go off. He was having an affair with somebody else, and she was going to go and finish her thing with Onassis, and it was a way for the two of them to run off into the sunset and live these lives that they couldn't lead.
Right.
Okay, is that taking stuff too far?
Have you ever seen the movie Bubba Hotep?
Yeah, I love that movie. Don't be bagging on Bubba Hotep.
See?
Don't be bagging on Bubba Hotep.
All this are hanging out in old folks' home, you know. Come on. No, we won't name names, but let me tell you something. That would have been impossible to fake something like it. It would not have been impossible to fake a shooting. But you wouldn't have done it in broad daylight. You know, it would have been some guy sneaked in the White House late at night. No, or even better than that, if they wanted to truly kill Kennedy, why didn't they just? Everybody knew he had a bad back. Why didn't they have a fatal accident in the White House swimming pool? Or better yet, and even easier, why not just die in a crash of Air Force One, due to mechanical failure? Never mind the cyanide capsule under the landing gear switch,
Right.
There's a lot of ways of doing that, okay? No, they blew his brains out in broad daylight in front of a crowd for the very same reason that we execute criminals. It was a public execution.
Right.
And it was carried out for the same reason, which is to serve as a deterrent to anyone who would try to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah,
Okay?
I have no issues with.
Now, even if
with
they
that.
had faked it all, then why kill 100 people later to cover it all up?
Right.
Why all the controversy for 50 years, No, I'm sorry. That makes about as much sense as the driver turning and shooting.
That was my next.
Either.
Yes, that was my. I have tried until my eyes were bleeding, trying to see the driver shoot him. Right? I can't.
Well,
I can't pull that one off.
In fact, here right now, I'm going to send you.
Yeah.
A blow up of the Zapruder frame. Hang on. Give me an email where I can reach you right now.
Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com.
All right. JIMMY at JIMMYCHURC.
No. Yep. jimmychurchradio.com.
RADIO, radio, right?
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right.
Oh, I'm all excited.
I'm just going to give you a subject line.
Okay.
The Zapruder frame.
You got to love live radio, everybody.
Yeah, of course.
This is what it's about.
Go and find that frame. This is a frame from the Zapruder film. This is the one where they say the driver's shooting Kennedy, except you always see it real blurry. Sometimes it's such a bad generation copy that it's even in black and white almost. You really can't see what's going on.
Right.
But I guarantee you, when you see this, you'll clearly see that what some people have thought was a gun is nothing more than the highlight of Roy Kellerman's hair. Jimmy, you may recall back in the 50s, 60s, all the grown men wore hair grease. We all had grease on our hair,
I wear it now.
Right. Okay. So let's see here.
Yeah, and I was listening to the whole Kennedy faked his death, thing. And so I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the Zapruder film today. I was just doing this over the last couple of days. But to hear that, I I watched the Zapruder film over a couple of days once. I watched it about 100 times to the point where I wanted to shoot myself in the head. It's one of the most depressing pieces of film you could ever watch.
Oh, I know. But if you're going to be a true detective, and if you really want to know what happens, well, then, of course, you have to view that stuff. And, of course, I've been an old cop. Hey, listen, I was a police detective, a police reporter back in the days when I just ran with the cops. And I stepped over the mud and the blood. They didn't have any tape up. They didn't have any police spokesmen. I was running around with the cops with just a pencil and paper, or a notepad. And, in fact, I sat in on autopsies. I saw the whole process firsthand. And that was back in the days of the old republic when there were real reporters doing real reporting, okay? Not like these guys who have pretty faces so they can get in front of the video camera, and they are back about 12 blocks away from whatever happened with all the yellow tape, and they're regurgitating whatever the police official spokesman told them,
Right.
That's not reporting.
Yeah, I'm looking at this frame here. And okay. I see exactly what you're talking about.
Let me, just in case, let me explain what you're seeing here.
You see the shape of a gun, but that's the highlight of the grease off his hair.
Yeah.
And then both hands are down below.
How the highlight on Kellerman's hair matches the highlight on the back of Greer's hair.
Right. Yep.
See that? Okay.
Yep.
That little white line there that's just the top of his head, people, when you're told that's a gun,
right.
You see it in even a worse thing than you can see it, but also see the circle. You can see his hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah, both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah. Yep, that ends that.
Did not happen, period. End of story.
Oh, Bill Cooper is turning over in his grave right now.
I know, poor old Bill. I learned about Bill Cooper probably before anybody else because he had first sent around, he hadn't published any books, but he sent around a little treatise, and it ends up at the Star Telegram, and since I was kind of the weird writer, they passed it to me, and I was reading through all that, and I'm hearing about his naval background and all like that. I got kind of excited. I thought, boy, this guy made me know what he's talking about, because he was talking about, of course, UFOs and aliens and blah, blah. And then I get to the Kennedy assassination, and he says the driver shot Kennedy, and I went, nah, I don't think so, but I'm willing to look into that. And then he says, and all the witnesses within a 20-foot radius died within the next few years, which is simply not true. Gene Hill and Charles Brim and I don't know. So the family, what's their names that fell on their kids. They're all still alive, and I was still talking with them. So I knew he wasn't right about that. And so then I went and we got a copy of the Zapruder film. We went through it frame by frame, blowing it up and looking at it, and realized that, no, the driver did not shoot him. And so I actually contacted Bill Cooper and told him, I said, I think you've got some interesting stuff to say here, but you're ruining your credibility by telling this stuff about the Kennedy assassination, which is simply not true. And I explained to him what the whole deal was. And I know for a fact that I was not the only Kennedy researcher to contact him and say, no, and this was not to heap abuse on him. I was trying to help him out because, I was trying to help him with his credibility, because some of that other stuff, I didn't know could be true. But anyway, he continued to sell those bad copies of the Zapruder film for years and tell everybody that the driver shot Kennedy, and that's pretty much where that thing got started. And it's unfortunate.
Thank you so much, Jim, for coming on. We'll see you at Contact in the Desert, June 3rd in Joshua Tree, California. I'll look forward to it, and we'll take some more pictures of you strangling me to death by the pool. All right?
This time I'll do a better job.
Thank you so much, Jim. Be safe. Thank you again.
Jimmy,
thank you so much. Great show. You got it. Jim Mars, everybody, and I just posted up the image, the still from the Zapruder film, and you can check that out right now, #F2B. It's being retweeted by everybody, so you can go check it out. And so what, clearly, that's right. That's the shape of the gun that he's been talking about, both hands on the wheel. That kind of does the kibosh on the Bill Cooper thing. All right, really quick, I've got a few minutes left. We worked really hard on the news today, and I didn't get to any of this. So let me just close with some of this. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced today that he had ordered Russian forces to begin withdrawing from Syria, saying that they have achieved their goals. Pullback will start tomorrow. Putin discussed the decision with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in a telephone call. How many Russian troops? We don't know. When will they leave? We don't know. Is this a message to al-Assad saying, you know what? You need to negotiate and it's over? I don't know. Check this out. The Bangladesh Central Bank says it is hopeful it's going to get back all of its money after falling victim to a multi-million-dollar bank heist. Bank robbers successfully made 5 transfers out of the Bangladesh bank's account at the New York Fed. The request appeared to come from a Bangladesh server, and they supplied the correct bank codes to authenticate the transfers. How much? $101 million. $80 million ended up in accounts located in the Philippines, and $21 million went to Sri Lanka. The Bangladesh Central Bank says it has recovered all of the money it lost to the Sri Lankan accounts, and it has successfully frozen the accounts in the Philippines. They tried for $850 million more, but the New York Fed denied those transfers. Europe and Russia launched a joint mission today to explore the atmosphere of Mars and hunt for signs of life on the red planet. The unmanned ExoMars probe, a collaboration between the European Space Agency and Roscosmos, took off from a base in Kazakhstan. Mission controllers said they began receiving a signal from the spacecraft about 11 hours after launch. They have successfully separated from the rocket, deployed its solar wings, and continued on its journey to Mars. The North Korean government has announced plans to liquidate all remaining South Korean assets at the former joint projects it has in its territory in response to sanctions imposed by Seoul. The move came amid the escalating standoff that began this past January between both sides of the border. The North's Committee for Peaceful Reunification of Korea said in a statement that Pyongyang will seize its neighbors' assets at the closed Kasan industrial complex and then scrapped its tourism resort at Diamond Mountain. But I ask you, I have no issues with going to a used office supply store if you need some chairs and some desks and some filing cabinets. Sometimes you can really save some money. But who is going to buy used office supplies in North Korea for pennies on the dollar? Even I like a good bargain. I do. I really do. But who is going to buy some used office equipment in North Korea? They need to rethink this. The 100 gas stations in the U.S. that have prices as low as $1.11 and as high as $1.33, there's 100 of them. All but 2 of them are in Arizona. The national average for a gallon of regular gas is $1.88 and rising. Most of the stations with the lowest gas prices in Arizona are in Tucson. A few are in Phoenix. The geographic spread of prices is not strange. Arizona has the lowest price in the United States, according to Gas Buddy. The highest is Hawaii, $2.56 a gallon. I got to tell you, we saw it get close to, I saw $2.15 a gallon for one afternoon here. Yeah, I thought we were going to hit $1.99. It never happened. Now, I'll leave you with this. NASA scientists are patenting substances that act like non-stick cookware, Teflon, blocking dead insects from adhering to surfaces so air flows more smoothly over wings and fuselage. The new coatings could solve one of the aviation's oldest problems, how to take advantage of super smooth flow of air called the laminar flow that dramatically reduces drag and improves fuel efficiency. Up until now, this has been almost impossible to achieve in the real world because even the smallest debris, including insect carcasses, triggers swirling air turbulence that roils the airstream. This is Fade to Black. And, you know, why do they got to patent that? Why does NASA got to make money? Why do they got to patent that? Shouldn't they give that away for free? Really? Honestly, I think so. Thank you, Jim Mars, The View from Mars Live. You are the absolute very best. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fadey by Dale. Webmaster is Drew, the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro is Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Oh, thank you for the phone calls tonight. Thank you to Jim Mars. Tomorrow night, Dr. Carmen Bolter right here. Got a great update on Egypt and her new documentary on Atlantis. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Go Backley Tappy.